The Northeast Texas Sports Network is dedicated on delivering the most entertaining sports broadcasts in East Texas. And if you're interested in having your next sporting event streamed live, visit us online at netsn.live.
And we're back for week 2, Beast from the East. It's Mr. NETSN, Brett Swinney. Alongside me tonight, we got Jaron Peoples, Jeremy Diamond, and Mr. Red Zone OT, KO Kyle Owens. Welcome, everyone, to tonight's show. Guys, how's it going? Besides KO can't answer right now. I know he's going pretty good there with his Eagles jersey.
It's a great week to be a champ, Brett. That's what it is. It's a great week to be a reigning, defending Super Bowl champion, getting the banner dropped in a couple of days. Second Super Bowl championship. It's awesome.
I thought you were going to go with Professor Diggs there. He's going on and reigning, defending champ already.
Well, I will get to that because I did pretty good in my pick'ems too. But as far as the NFL, it's reigning, defending Super Bowl champions.
Darren, I want to know how you feel about your insider pick there this week.
Oh man, I guess we'll talk about that. Bad info.
Hey, I want to know if you've recovered 3 games in 3 days. How are we feeling?
Dude, I've broadcasted so much the last few days. I find myself doing play-by-play of like the cats running around the house. Like
That's awesome. It's awesome. First off, I want to give a shout out to all the viewers out there that tuned in to NETSN this past week. Incredible numbers. Thanks for sharing, letting everyone know about our streams, and continue to do that. This is just week 1, but we had a huge turnout, just blew previous record numbers away. So thank you very much for that. We all were busy. KO was out filming. Kyle, you were down the sidelines. And how did it feel to get back on the sidelines now that you've had week 1 behind you?
It was awesome, man. It was phenomenal. Got started Thursday night over in Winsboro with a good game, and then the atmosphere there was pretty neat. And then Friday, with the rivalry between Longview and Lufkin, that atmosphere was intense. The pads were popping over there in Longview. So it was nice to get back out on the sidelines, kind of have the sights, the sounds, the smells of Texas high school football. It was great.
Did you avoid the horn?
Yes, stayed far away from the horn.
Okay, yeah. Good.
Heard it for sure, but stayed far away from it.
Okay, you could still hear it where you were.
You can probably hear it in Marshall from Longview.
Yeah, and then Jeremy, you had 2 games this past week, and you had an interesting one. First ever lights out game on NETSN. Tell us what your first week's experience was.
Man, it was a ton of fun. Game 1 we had Nacogdoches and Palestine had a nice setup there, and that was kind of an interesting game, right? 7-7 halftime, and then Nat kind of came and took over. And then the next night I was with Keith, and things were rolling along. And we noticed when the lights first came on, there was one of the light poles kind of came on, came off, came back on, and didn't think anything about it. And about halftime, we kind of look over to the side, and there's a transformer above the concession stand, and it's shooting out blue sparks. We're like, that's probably not a good thing. I think the band for Mount Enterprise just walks on the field, and it literally just goes pitch black. Boof. All 4 of the power pole or the light poles go out. The cool thing was we're sitting on we're on the Carlisle side. Almost every person in the stands pulls their phone out, kicks on the flashlight. Same thing on the Mount Enterprise side, and so. The kids got to do their marching and stuff, via cell phone light, and then they did that for both teams. And then super job by Swepco. I think they were there and able to replace the wire or fix whatever was wrong within about an hour. And so one of those wild power outage delays that you never hear of. And so, but we got the game finished, not too bad, and just had an extra long halftime, and then lots of cramps in the second half due to those guys having such a long halftime.
Hey, real quick, Brett.
Yeah,
Pops was at that game with y'all, so he was telling me about it, the transformer blew and all that. And then, I kid you not, that's rare that happens. But then we had another Gilmer Chapel Hill situation in Longview. At 10 p.m., lights went off immediately. At 10 o'clock, lights in the stadium. Johnson, or Trey Henderson is up under center for Longview, getting ready to take the snap, and all of a sudden, lights just go out. Same thing you were talking about, Jeremy. Fireflies all over the place in at Lobo Stadium. But then they immediately came back on after 2 minutes. But yeah, it was weird that it happened in one game, but to have lights go out in 2 games on the same night is wild.
That's that automatic 10 p.m. they use for middle school, right, to shut the place down, and they probably forgot to turn that limiter off on a Friday night one, and that's crazy.
Hey, at least the play wasn't going like the previous one. That's where you get somebody hurt. I mean, yeah. All right, let's talk about week 1 pick'ems. We'll go down through here. First off, I'll go here to the leaderboard. After week 1, we had 7 people at 9 picks, 9 out of 10. So shout out to Coach Griff, Doug Montgomery, Glenn Hart, Jacob McGee, Landon Vidrun, Lewis Ray, and Tony Riley are 9 out of 10. So shout out to
Jacob McGee. Cayuga coach Jacob McGee?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a viewer of our show too.
Shout out.
Coach Griff's online coach over at O-line coach over at Overton. So
okay.
Some coaches getting in on the fun. Yeah. So we'll give them a little, applause for week 1. Looks like we got a couple of guys on the first page here out of our group. Let's see. Conrad had 8. Coach Trebert had 8. Jeremy Diamond had 8. Kyle Owens had 8. So I'm right there at 7. Me and Brandon, and I don't see Jaron on the first page. It's alphabetical, so he's just off the first page.
I'm 7, just like you are.
Just not on my first page here. You didn't make the first page. You should have been named Baron Peoples, and you would have been up here.
I actually have a story there, but we don't have to do that right now.
Okay, that's okay. I have a question though. I don't see your brother there. How did you fare in the head-to-head twin battle in week 1?
So he called me. He's like, "Well, I guess I did okay for my first time ever doing pick'ems," and I was like, "Oh yeah, you'll be okay."
So what number? How far ahead of you?
5. He shot 50%.
Okay, but he did get the one right that you got wrong. We'll talk about that here in a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, so first week, I mean, I feel like 7 out of 10 for me, and you guys think probably, 8 out. I felt 7 out of 10 was pretty good. When I was talking, I think I was talking to Jaron on the phone about it. I felt like I hadn't even looked at them because I was, busy doing games and really was trying to make sure our stuff was working. But I felt like I didn't do very well just because some of the ones I thought were going to go for me didn't. And so, but ended up 7 out of 10. I'll take it for a week one. We'll start with the game we did over in Hallsville, Lindale over Hallsville. I think that's one of those games. I think I felt like it was pretty close to what I expected. I feel like Lindale is a good team there, and Hallsville, I kind of feel like they had struggled in their scrimmages, and so we had 59 out of 66 people select Lindale there. I think we all had Lindale, right? Right, guys? Everyone had Lindale here? Okay, I thought so. That was an interesting one. Keith was over there with Conrad Thursday night, and that was a late night nightcap with the rain and stuff, so that one got delayed pretty late. And thankfully, they were able to make it at home and get back because I had to do another game the next night. So the weather was weird Thursday because Jeremy, I didn't see a drop of rain on Thursday where we were, and then all these other teams. Then I go over and see Larry's game, and it's like torrential rain pour down there in Shelbyville or St. Augustine. No, Beckville. It was St. Augustine, Beckville, and that one was like it was just pouring. You couldn't even see the field. It was so rainy. So it was really strange. I think it just kind of bubbled around us where we were. Okay, the game that was kind of a split. Wascom and Garrison. Actually, the underdog in picks, only 27 people had Garrison. They got the win in I think it was an impressive fashion. It was a coin flip game, I thought, but they win 39-19. And guys, what y'all think about that score? Was it a little shocking to you? It was to me.
Yeah, I mean, I expected it to be a field goal battle, right? Or maybe, a couple points here, maybe a 2-point conversion difference. But yeah, I was surprised it was. I mean, I'm glad because I picked Garrison, don't get me wrong, but I didn't expect the score to be that different.
Yeah, I picked Garrison too. And just from what I heard, that it really was just a battle on the line. And that was the one thing I was thinking that was going to be different. It's just because Wascom, returned some great skill players, but got a real young line. And Garrison, that's just kind of what they do. They'll beat you on the line, and so I think that may be a little bit about what happened. But I think Wascom's going to be okay. I mean, I don't think this is it's a really good Garrison team, and it's a good chance they'll see each other again in the playoffs.
Yeah, I thought that was probably one of the surprises of the weekend. Definitely the surprise in the pick'em for me. I thought that not necessarily Garrison winning is not the surprise, just the score. Like I didn't think Wascom would get beat by 20 by Garrison, but I think it speaks more to the Bulldogs and how good Coach Alvarez has the Bulldogs coming this year. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about them preseason and high rankings, high expectations for Garrison, and to come out and whoop another high-ranked team by 20 points in week one is a very impressive start for the Bulldogs. So I'm with Jaron. I don't think I'm worried about Wascom. I think they're going to be just fine, but I think it says more about Garrison and how good Garrison might be this year.
Yeah, I think Wascom, if Jaron is correct on that with the line being young, and that definitely could be a factor. They'll grow as the year goes, and so it'll be interesting to see if they do get that rematch later in the playoffs. If that experience that they've gained during the season will make a difference in that second game. So, we hope we get that second game. They're two great teams, and hopefully they'll continue to play well. That third game on the Thursday was where Jeremy and I were. Nacogdoches in a second half surge knocked off Palestine 35-14. They scored 28 points to 7 in the second half. And really that 7 was really late. So then they kind of asserted themselves. I was impressed with the freshman quarterback, Jeremy. What did you think about Mr. Garrett?
Yeah, I think that was the thing you and I talked about. Maybe, both quarterbacks, I think both teams, that first quarter and a half or so were pretty rough, right? I think it was just trying to get their feet underneath and figure out what was going on. But Yeah, you wouldn't have known the quarterback for Nacogdoches was a freshman. In fact, I had, when we were doing lineups, we didn't get a starting roster. And so I'm looking at senior, junior, freshman, and I'm like, I'm not even sure if I need to write this guy down on the stat sheet. And then he ended up being the guy that started. And, man, just had a great second half. I felt like they made great adjustments, and he was impressive. That was one of my misses. I had Palestine on the win, so I took an L there. But hats off to Nac for coming in there and showing up second half.
Cam?
NAC had a lot of people come back this year. I think their entire defense returned, if not their entire defense, 10 of them at least. So there's some high expectations for NAC too, and I think it's a big win for Coach House to come out here in week 1 and get a win over Palestine on the road. They had to go travel on the road and didn't have to deal with the elements like some people more up north had to deal with. But I think it's a big win for NAC. It's a big win for Coach House. Palestine, again, it's kind of similar to Wascom. I don't think I'm really worried about Palestine. If you look at, we talked about Lindale a little earlier. You look at the District of Doom. Lindale and Chapel Hill were the only District of Doom teams to get wins on Friday night. Everybody else in that district lost. So I know it's not district, standings or anything right now, but just something to look at. Like, they weren't the only team that lost on Friday night. So I think they could just kind of shake that off and move forward. But big win for Nacogdoches.
Well, and we talked about it last week in the show. Is I just think Nacogdoches is just a step or two ahead of a similar, kind of swing back that Palestine's on. I just think Nacogdoches is just a step or two ahead of them. Started a little earlier, if you will. And so, and I think that's what we saw. It's just a team that's just a little bit ahead as far as they're kind of getting back on track. So,
all right, we'll go to Friday. We had our game 4 here. The underdog, according to the picks, was the Athens Hornets. Only 38 out of the 78 picked Athens, which, man, that's a little surprising. I mean, I know Coach Meeks is there, and I know he's going to turn Henderson around, but almost an identical game from last year as far as the score goes. I think it was a 1-touchdown game last year. And I believe it was a 1-score game as well. So 56-49, yeah. Athens over Henderson. And, I think to me, if it's an equal game, I feel like that Athens is an improved team. I think Henderson's on the rise too. So I think that's a positive thing to take away if you're a Henderson Line fan and Coach Meeks and company. I think that's a really good, solid performance for them in week 1 where Athens, we talked about how they've had an established program with Coach Harrell over the last, several years, and we think they're going to be in that top echelon in their district. And you got a Henderson team which has respun coaches, 2 or 3 times in the last 5 years, and so he's able to take what Coach Baker did and continue to improve on it. So I think that's a good, solid performance for Henderson. So I think both teams are teams to watch for this year. But I did have Athens in that one, so I did get a W. Did anyone have Henderson here? I think we all had Athens, didn't we? Okay. Jaron, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a little higher scoring than maybe I thought it would be. The result is, I picked Athens. By no means thought Athens was going to be like a 2-score thing or anything like that, score lead. But I think it's a good sign of Henderson for under a new head coach to put up that amount of points against a good Athens team, right? So I think it's encouraging. So,
Jeremy?
Yeah, and I think I was trying to look it up to make sure, but I think that was the one where I think they scored the winning touchdown with just hardly any time on the clock. I think it was I think it was the quarterback that I heard that runs one in kind of couple seconds left on the clock to seal the win, right? And so I think it was one of those kind of back and forth games. Again, I think Henderson's going to be fine. Again, I think Athens is going to be really good. I think both teams are going to be really good, but I think maybe the experience of Athens having just an established culture, and not having that coaching change, maybe that makes a tiny difference. I don't know, but I think both teams are set to have a good season.
I was impressed with Athens in that last scrimmage that I saw against Lindale. And that's why I went with Athens in this first game. So that was really I thought it was that much of a toss-up, and the only reason I went with Athens because I just recently seen them. So I think that's an impressive win for Coach Harrell and the Hornets. I think Henderson and Coach Meeks are going to be fine. They're on the rise. It's his first game back at Henderson after being gone for so many years. I think it would get a little cobwebs out, get the nerves out, and Henderson will be just fine. And like you said, Jeremy, if it's at the end of the game they scored like that, I mean that's definition of a toss-up, right? So I think it could have went either way. I think both teams can hold their heads high going into next week, and we'll be talking about these teams, both of them, come playoff time. I think for sure.
All right, game 5, we've got Gilmer and Pine Tree. Gilmer with the win, 41-25. I mean, I had Gilmer to win this one, but I think the fact that Pine Tree kept it within a couple of scores. We talked about the question marks at Pine Tree. They lost a lot of players. What are they going to look like? I think it's a good sign for Pine Tree. They start off with a really good Gilmer team, and they didn't get blown out. They stayed with them. It'll be interesting to see as they progress through their schedule how they'll look. But I think I'm not surprised about Gilmer. I think it's a good sign, though, if you're a Pine Tree Pirate fan. If you can compete against a state power like Gilmer, I think you'll be in good shape. They want to compete against the top and the best to prove themselves, and because their district's tough. So I think it's going to be a good season for Pine Tree. And I think, again, it's this District of Doom. I think it's going to be just any given night, anybody can knock anybody off with the teams that are coming up, like the Hendersons, like the Palestines. Can Pine Tree stay in that playoff spot, or it's going to be just a dogfight there? What do you think about this one, KO?
I think Gilmer is kind of on a little revenge tour from last year, wanting to get back at the teams that got them last season. And this was one of them that kind of shocked I don't want to say the state, but it shocked East Texas last year when Pine Tree upset Gilmer. So I think Gilmer going out there this year and getting a decisive victory, I think that's good for Gilmer. I think it's good for the Buckeyes. It shows they're starting faster than they have in the past couple of years. So, but you're right. And for Pine Tree, it's nothing to hang their head down about. Battled hard against a very good Gilmer team. They're going to be okay. They'll have another tough 4A team next week they got to deal with in Van. So be interested to see how that one turns out. And maybe we'll get a better gauge on Pine Tree after that. But I think there's nothing to be ashamed about to losing to Gilmer. A lot of people have done it recently. But like you said, they kept it close and made it competitive. So I think both teams are going to be okay going forward.
Jerry, what you got here?
Yeah, so kind of the same thing that KO said. I think that Gilmer's just getting off to a little bit quicker start than they have the last year or two. And like you said, a little bit of a revenge tour, a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. Obviously, I think they're a little more settled, particularly on the offensive side. Not as many questions to start the season as there were last season for them. So, I think they're getting off to a good start. And, Pine Tree, I think they're going to be fine. I mean, I was looking at, for polls and pick'ems and stuff, KO, that game against Van, and we'll talk about it later, I think. So, but I think that's really going to be a testament for both teams and see kind of which one of those are, what we have there. But good effort for Pine Tree, but Gilmer, I think, is just going to have a really good year. And we saw them at the White House scrimmage, and they're ready to play some ball.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, if you're a Gilmer fan, I think you're like wash, rinse, repeat, right? Like this is what we do. We get off to a good start again. We talked about it. They had a little bit of a stumble last year, but I think they're kind of, this is the expectation, right? The expectation is to come out and win ball games and win a lot of them. And so I think they've done a good thing to get that in the right direction. And, again, we talked about it, but I think Pine Tree is going to have a big game in game 2. And again, that's the cool thing and the interesting thing about these non-districts is, it doesn't affect your playoff seeding, but it can affect your mentality, right? Or how you come into that and what your momentum looks like. And so, I think for Pine Tree, they're going to want to bounce back this week against a good Van team.
All right, game 6. Troop traveled down to Shelbyville, and did they lay a butt whooping on the Shelbyville Dragons? We had that game on NETSN, 56-14, guys. Did not see this coming. I did pick Troop, but I thought this would be maybe a couple score game, because I'd seen Troop in scrimmages, and I felt like they were ready to go, even though Shelbyville, had some guys coming back, but we had the question marks about, no DJ Barnes. What would that effect be? And Jaron, I believe you had Shelbyville here. What did you think about Troop's effort on Friday night?
I did, and talking, talking to our buddy Larry down in Shelby County, I was, obviously losing DJ Barnes is tough, but I knew they were returning a lot, and everyone's been real high on Troop preseason, and I knew they were going to have a good year, but I was like, sure, surely not, right? And again, I'm not necessarily thinking that I picked Shelbyville. There was a few pick-ups where I just thought I'd kind of go the minority, and that was one of them. But I definitely didn't think that it would be that big of a spread. And so I'll tell you, especially for my polls, Troop shot up. They gained some respect from me. I thought it was a really good win for them.
Jeremy?
Yeah, man, that was a beat down from T-Town, and by T-Town we mean Troop there. That was tough, right? I mean, they tamed the dragon big time, and I was shocked. I thought they would win. I had them in the pick to win. But I think if you just showed me that score, I would have thought it was a joke, right? I mean, it was just such a big win, huge win for them, especially since it was done on the road, right? It wasn't a home win. That'd be one thing, but to go to Shelbyville and win that big is an impressive start. And I think there's a whole lot of teams in that district that are like, oh man, they are for real.
KO?
Expectations are a crazy thing, and the expectations I feel like in Troop haven't been higher than they are right now. I think everybody is super high on the Tigers. So that's a lot of pressure on those kids to go out there and to perform. And they said, pressure, what pressure? It just went down to Shelbyville and did their thing and proved everybody that had been talking about them this offseason, proved them right. And as Troop got off to a hot start. So proud of Troop for going down there and kind of proving everyone right in week one. Now, follow-up, you got to continue to do that week in and week out. But I think it was a great start for Troop. Shelbyville, they're in that tough district that we've talked about, and Timpson appears to be back maybe too with that. So it just gets a little tougher. So, I mean, I think Shelbyville's going to have to figure some things out. Coach Wallace will get it figured out down there. I have all the faith in the world in him. But big win for Troop and to move forward.
All right. We have our biggest upset special of the week in the pick'ems, as we had 17 people pick Frankston to beat Joaquin. I don't believe any of us in this room picked Frankston, but Frankston said, hey, wait just 1 second. Don't forget about us, as they beat Joaquin 40-22, guys. And it's not just that they won, but the margin that they won. It wasn't like they kicked a field goal at the end to win. I mean, 40-22 is a pretty solid statement win for Frankston in week one. And we talked about that Frankston would be a player in their district, but to come in and beat Joaquin, who just came off the best season of their ever program history, to put that kind of a win on them, that was impressive to me. KO, what do you think about the Frankston Indians win over Joaquin?
I think I owe Coach Gould an apology for not giving them a little more respect. That was impressive, man. That we're talking about scores that kind of made my eyes open on Friday night when I was looking at them, and this was one of them. I mean, and we talked about it with Troop, expectations, right? Joaquin, same set of expectations down there with how they did last year. And Frankston did not care about those expectations, did not care what Joaquin did last year. And big win for the Indians, though. I think that's a solid week one win that can really springboard you into a great year. I mean, Frankston's heard the talk all year too, right? Had to watch Joaquin go 5 rounds deep in the playoffs a year ago, and they got a chance to come out and really put it to the Rams. And I'm impressed to hold them to 22 points. Joaquin put up a ton of points last year, was a scoring machine, and the Frankston defense held them to just 22 points in week one. So very impressed with the Frankston Indians. Joaquin, same thing with Shelbyville, tough district. They'll figure it out, but very impressed with Frankston in week one.
Jaron?
Yeah, so I was just looking at last year's game. Joaquin won that game by a score of 65-44, and then kind of had an up and down year. Ended up going in as the 4th seed, and then of course had that big playoff surge. But I think Frankston had a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, a little bone to pick, and and came out. And I think that the craziest thing to me was scoring, putting up that many points on that Joaquin defense, which we know is just really tough, especially at the front. And so, I think that's the most impressive thing about the win is just how many points they were able to put up on a really good, well-coached Joaquin defense.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were at the game Friday night and, checking scores and, sometimes in Carlisle you don't get the best internet service, and so I was like, I'm sorry, I looked at it a couple times. I was like, refresh, because I was just surprised. I mean, not that I didn't think that Frankston could hang with them, but yeah, I think the same thing. Like I was surprised that they held him to 22 points, and so my apologies, Frankston. I did not know your game and you did well and I'm impressed. And I will not overlook you again. So hats off to them. Kudos to them.
All right. Maybe the game of the weekend, like as far as finishes goes, in this next one, game 8, as Marshall goes for 2 and gets it and beats Tyler High by 1, 43-42. KO, I see you shaking your head there. What about that one?
I'm going to be honest. I didn't expect this one to be this close. I thought Marshall would kind of take care of business against Tyler. I think it says a lot about Coach Woods and Tyler High. How we talk about it every week. I feel like Coach Woods is doing a good job with the Tyler program. They're improving, blah, blah, blah. Well, they're proving it now. They're going out. I know they lost. I get it. But when you lose on a 2-point conversion, I mean, it sucks. But at the same time, how many positives can you take away from that? Putting up 42 points against Marshall, really going out there, having a chance to win. I'm impressed with how close Tyler High kept it, but also you got to give props to Marshall. They went out there and beat Tyler High, like it straight up beat them, went for 2. Coach Hammett having the guts to go for 2 and go for the win. I love that. I love the confidence in the players. I love the confidence in the team. But I was just impressed with Tyler High, how they performed and really showed out. Had an amazing catch in the back of the end zone to get that game close. So impressed with Tyler High, more impressed with Marshall to get the win, but really like where Tyler High is going and how they're trending.
Jeremy, what did you think about this?
All right, so I think the part that we're all missing here is we're 4 inches away from this game going the other way. I don't know if you saw it, but they had a Hail Mary at the end, and Harrelson is here, and the ball is about right here. I mean, it was inches away from that game flipping back on a last-second play. Back in Tyler High's favor. A great throw by Granberry. So I mean, this is one of those weird things where we could be talking about a completely different game, right? In that one thing. And so, yeah, I was tuned in watching that one, and it was a crazy game, and it was kind of back and forth. And then, like you said, they went for 2 and got the 1-point lead, and then there was a decent amount of time left, and Tyler High almost got there. And so, yeah, I think both teams, again. Marshall did what they're supposed to do. They were supposed to win this game, right? That's if you're looking at where they're projected to be. And again, I think Tyler High has shown they've taken a big step forward as far as just being able to contend and compete. And, again, 4 inches makes a difference.
Jaron?
Yeah, so I was talking to my brother yesterday about it, and I said, is this one of those where does this tell us more about Marshall or more about Tyler, right? And I kind of said I really think this tells us more about Tyler in the sense that I just think, to echo KO, is that they're a lot further down this kind of, again, I hate to use the word rebuild, but kind of resurgence here, and that that's a good quality football team, right? And so, like you said, it's a loss, but this could be a really good game to continue to propel them. And I hope Coach Woods and company and the guys on that team just really realize that they have a bright future ahead of them. And I'm excited to see what happens in the week ahead. And they got a big rivalry game this week. So,
speaking of rivalry game 9, Lufkin Longview, as Longview takes this one 41-16. KO, you were there on the sideline. Give us your thoughts on what you saw Friday night.
My bad.
As he goes up there.
Well, that's what happened Friday night. The power went out in Long. No, man, it was a fun game. I really thought, coming out there, the rumor all week was, will Coach King be on the sidelines Friday night for Longview? He was there, full coaching attire, coached his tail off. Now, I don't know what's happening down the road. He mentioned something in the post game about he's going to take some time. I don't know what's happening with Coach King. Can't speak on that. But what I can speak on was that game Friday, and Longview looked shaky out of the gate. Lufkin, I believe, got the ball first, didn't do anything with it, punted it. Longview got the ball, fumbled it, and then Lufkin, one play, scores on a 34-yard touchdown pass to take a 7-0 lead. Next drive for Longview, they throw an interception. Lufkin goes down again, scores on like a 24-yard rushing touchdown, up 14-0 with 5 minutes to go in the first quarter. You're sitting there like, okay, wait a second. This is different. But then the Lobos played Longview Lobo football. They just started pounding the rock. They have some running backs in that backfield. You remember Boosie Washington? His younger brother Mason is in the backfield now. He only scored 2 touchdowns last night, or Friday night, I mean. And Caden Cummings, I think, is the other one that he scored 2 on the ground. They have another Johnny Washington out at tight end that scored a touchdown. I don't know if there's a relation to Mason and Boosie, probably, but there's Johnny Washington out there at tight end that scored a touchdown too. They have so many weapons, but they didn't have to throw the ball a lot. That's the only thing I didn't see a lot from Longview was a lot of throwing. They were really just pounding the rock, and then they scored 21-14. They scored 21 points after Lufkin took that 14-0 lead. So it was 21-14 Longview at halftime. Lobos got the ball after half, drove 70 yards in 7+ minutes, just leaning on Lufkin, and took a 28-14 lead. And at that point, Lufkin had kind of bowed out of the battle at that point. 5 possessions in the second half for Lufkin, 3 punts, a fumble, and a turnover on downs in the 5 possessions in the second half for Lufkin. Longview's defense was stifling. The only reason Lufkin scored 2 points in the second half, blocked extra point, returned to the house for 2 points. So Lufkin looked good early. I think they just wore down. So Coach Absek will need to get that corrected where they can play 4 full quarters and not just 1 good quarter at the start. But for Longview, I mean, they faced adversity from the jump, being down 14-0, then rattled off, I believe, 35 unanswered points before that blocked extra point. So excellent job by the Longview Lobos. Guess what? They're back. They're still pretty good. And I think Lufkin's going to be just fine. They just got to clean up a little of the mistakes. They showed spurts of times where they looked really, really good. Then there were other times where they didn't look so good. So shout out to Longview. They performed excellent, and Lufkin will be all right. I think Lufkin's going to win their district again. I'm not concerned about Lufkin. I know the loss looks bad, but I think it says more about how good Longview is than Lufkin.
Jaron?
Yeah, I think that game, as far as the result, ended up being what we thought it would be. I picked Longview. As I was watching scores, while doing the game Friday night, I was like, oh, okay. And Jeremy I was with Coach Hubbard and those guys Friday, yeah. And I said, hey guys, look at here. And so obviously our eyebrows are raised for a little bit, and then as we check back, like, okay, all right. And so so the Lobos did what they do, and and I think when a team experiences any type of adversity and stuff like that, you're interesting to see like how they respond, and this just may be something that really propels them to make an even deeper run this year.
Jeremy?
Yeah, and I think you never know what the emotion of the announcement of Coach King's cancer diagnosis, right? What that does to a young guy, right? Because a lot of times that's that thing. You're like, we're going to go win it for, and sometimes you almost try to do too much, right? And maybe early they tried to do a little bit too much, and then they kind of settle in. But again, it's they're Longview for a reason, right? They have the reputation they have for a reason. And again, I think Lufkin's going to be okay. But I think that really said more about Longview than it really did Lufkin, I think, in that game, of just the ability to kind of flip the script there and make a good comeback and finish well.
All right. Game 10. Carthage and Kilgore. Carthage with the win, 21-10. And I need to hear from Jaron here. I know he's talked to his inside information over there. Tell us about this one, Jaron. I know you're excited to talk about this game.
I think that just particularly that young offensive line for Carthage just played really, really well. And, that defensive front for Kilgore is so good. And I think that they just played really well and kind of above their heads a little bit, which is good because you're not sure how much more they're going to be tested up until really third, fourth round of the playoffs. And so I think they were really, really happy to see that. And then I think it took a little bit to get some of the offense rolling, but then KJ did his thing. Carson Crawford even caught a pass. He plays some offense, caught a touchdown pass, and so I think that's what I'm most impressed with. Because I picked Kilgore, and a lot of it was because I just thought that defensive front for Kilgore was going to be just too much, and I just think kudos to that young offensive line for Carthage for stepping up to the task.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it, Friday night because that was kind of the game, that we were all excited about. And so I'm looking early and I'm like, 7-0 Kilgore. I was like, oh, man, maybe they are going to get him back to back, right? And I thought, wow, they, because it was just for a long time, I think, for at least for what we could see in, updates we were getting out there. And, it was 7-0 for quite a bit. And then Carthage said, not so fast, right? And they got the win. And I think, again, I think any of us would be foolish to say we're worried about either team, no matter what the outcome was, right? We know that these are two of the best teams. And, again, where else are you going to find a week one matchup with the two? I mean, that's just a crazy matchup. Like, that's the thing where you're like, well, I mean, it's the equivalent of kind of what we saw on Saturday, with Texas and Ohio State were two of the top programs in the state faced off, right? And so you're like, how do you do this week one? Not to put a little burr in somebody's pocket there, but I mean, again, it was a great game, right? It was a hard fought game, and so I think that's exciting that neither one of those teams is afraid to schedule that game because it would be easy to duck the other, right? It would be easy to not play the other one, but I think both coaches know the value in doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I think Carthage I picked Carthage because I think they weren't going to lose 2 years in a row to Kilgore. I didn't see it happening. But I think what impresses me more is Carthage's defense. We know offensively what they have. Jet Surratt, KJ Edwards, Benny Hill, I think is still in the backfield. You got so many weapons offensively, right? But defensively, to hold that Kilgore team to 10 points, that is impressive. And I will preach it until I'm in the grave. Defense wins championships. So if you already have your defense that solid in week one where you can hold an explosive Kilgore offense to just 10 points, I think that's more impressive to me than anything else that happened that night. I hear Jaron talking about the line, and I agree, trenches is where the games are won, but the defense is what will carry you, because if your offense has a bad night, like we saw Carthage have last year against Kilgore, you're going to need that defense to step up and do something. And so they did really well Friday night. I think, I think we'll see both these teams playing in December. So I'm not worried about either one of them. Like Kilgore, sure, took a week one loss, but Carthage took a loss in week one last year and went on to win state. So I'm not concerned about Kilgore. I think that, again, they held Carthage to 21. It's not like Carthage just lit up the scoreboard on them. So I think you could take positives away for both teams. Obviously, Carthage is going to come out there a little happier. They came out on with a win, but I think Kilgore is going to be just fine and going to be a real problem going forward. So
I was in Dallas on Friday night for the White House Woodrow Wilson game. I went with the White House guys, and Coach Westerberg had his team ready. A nice opening week win that they're going to need to have that momentum carrying into next week, because they've got a tough one, as the aforementioned Kilgore is going to be rolling over to White House for that game. So I was impressed with White House. They look good in week one. It's hard to tell just because I don't really know how good Woodrow Wilson is. But anyway, a week one win is a week one win, and saw a lot of good things from the White House Wildcats. Jaron, what did you see on some of the games that you were at that weren't in the pick'ems that maybe you want to highlight?
Winsboro is really, really, really good. I'm telling you. I had them ranked pretty high, but and I think we just saw, in their game against Tatum on Thursday, just a fraction of their offense. I mean, just a fraction. We get a lot of talk around. There's a lot of talk around Noe Carroll and Camden Capehart, rightfully so. But their running back, Castleberry, is legit. That dude can run the ball. And, he was impressive. So enjoyed that game. Really impressed with Lindsboro. And then was really impressed Friday night with Brook Hill. Started off a little slow and then really kind of controlled probably about 2.5 quarters of that game, 3 quarters of that game. And then I'll tell you, last night I did Big Sandy and Winona, and that was a bizarre game. You started out really in Winona's favor. They've got a running back Mobley that is really, really impressive. And then Big Sandy's defense really just kind of came up and made some huge plays. And then you went to halftime, you're like, okay, it was tied. Like, we got a ball game here. And then we come out second half, and Winona just controlled it. And then ended up being, running clock in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I mean, I think it's week 1, a lot to learn for both teams. But I was impressed with Winona. We'll see what happens as the schedule develops, but it's a good win for those guys.
Jeremy, what did you think about Friday night? You had a classic over there in Carlisle.
Yeah, it was a wild game. It was it was interesting early. I think I was trying to think. I think Mount Enterprise had 3 turnovers at the half. They were down 16-12. Kagan Ash had a pretty good first half. They would move the ball and then turn it over. They'd move the ball and then lose. They'd get a penalty or something. It was kind of one of those like herky jerky. And I was really impressed with Carlisle. They ran the ball really well. They threw it at opportune times. That game was 24-24 late, and then Mount Enterprise stops Carlisle inside the 20, and then drives it down the field, scores, goes for 2, and gets it. And then they did something I thought was wild. They went for an onside kick up 8, and Carlisle had no timeout, so all they had was the 2-minute time, the 2-minute stoppage. I think it was like 2:30 left or 2:40. And Carlisle kind of took the ball down all the way. They got the ball. They threw it out. I mean, I'm trying to think. It was number 5 for Mount Enterprise. Had 3 huge touchdown saving tackles on the last drive. Like the biggest one was they had the ball on the 4-yard line on a pass, and he dives. And he's really out of position. He just reaches over the hand and grabs the side of the guy's shoulder pad and pulls Garza down, who would have scored because there would have been no one else nearby. And then they tried to spike the ball. Carlisle did, and 2 guys moved right before the spike to reset. And so they got an illegal shift, and it was a 10-second runoff and ended the game that way, which is just a tough way to end it. It was brutal. But yeah, it was just one of those like, man, it was so good at some point, and like what's going on? And I mean, it was just one of those back and forth, and like, I mean, hats off to both teams. Again, it was a crazy 1-hour delay with the power outage. That was wild, And I mean, like I said, the fourth quarter was 2 plays in a cramp. Like both sides were going down, and Keith and I were looking at each other going, okay, who's going to have 11 guys left at this point? Because there was guys that were playing both ways coming off, on the defense, and then they have to go back in on offense, and they're dragging a leg to try to run. And, so it was a cool game there, and just a crazy one, but it was a lot of fun too.
So a game that I didn't actually see, I was kind of keeping track of, was Malakoff West Rusk. West Rusk was ahead in that game early, and I was like, okay, is West Rusk back? And then Malakoff kind of closed and ended up winning. But I think that says a lot for West Rusk that they were able to stay with a Malakoff team who's been to the state championship game in the last 2 years. 33-14 final, but still they competed in the game. So I'm looking forward to seeing Coach Mata and seeing what they do this season. Now I don't know if I guess we'll find out if it's more of Malakoff taking a step back. Obviously they lost some players off those 2 teams that made the runs, but I think that was an interesting score. We talked about the battle of the new coaches. Center and Jacksonville. Center got that win in Jacksonville, 31-13, which, I think, Jacksonville early, y'all talked about it, and KO especially talking to Coach Stevenson. I mean, they fought in this one. I mean, Center didn't just come in and romp them. So we'll see how that momentum goes. Kyle, you had some game scores coming into you on Friday on your red zone. What scores to you that we didn't talk about in our pick'ems kind of stuck out to you?
I'm glad you asked, Brett. I have a list. All right.
Okay, good.
So the first one that I saw, well, first off, let's go to Thursday. Let's go back to Thursday. Shout out to the Huntington Red Devils. They snapped a 26-game losing streak with a 44-10 win over Evadale. So shout out to the Huntington Red Devils down there So shout out to Huntington. They were actually our red zone game ball winner because they snapped that 26-game win streak or losing streak. Gladewater beating Dangerfield kind of surprised me, 21-7. But shout out, get your hand applause ready again. Shout out to Coach Lou for his first win as a head coach over there at Gladewater.
Yeah.
So those were two on Thursday that kind of surprised me. And well, then the Garrison one and San Augustine shutting out Beckville. First shutout in the Cody Ross era for Beckville. Big win for San Augustine. That was impressive. On Friday, though, in the 4A ranks, how about this one? The Pittsburgh Pirates beating Liberty Ilo 33-20. Everybody has been up in arms about Liberty Ilo, saying they're dominating, right? And Pittsburgh, one win last year, doesn't care about Liberty Ilo. New coach, new coaching staff, 33-20 win, huge win for the Pirates. So another round of applause for the Pittsburgh Pirates over there in Camp Cannon. Shout out to them. Big win for Pittsburgh. As we continue on down this road, yes, you talked about Malakoff West Rusk. That was interesting. But also in the 3A ranks, how about this? The Mount Vernon Tigers knocked off New Diana 40-29. How about that? That was unexpected for me. I thought New Diana with new coach was going to come out there and kind of take care of business, but Mount Vernon, impressive win there. So really happy for the Tigers over there. Grand Saline, a 1-point win over Cooper. We had a lot of talk about Grand Saline this season. They're ranked high in our polls. They struggled with Cooper, but Cooper's a really good football team. Not to take anything away from them. Quitman beating Wolf City. Wolf City's got a D1 running back that's going to Kansas State next year, I think. And Quitman outscored them 48-45 to win that one. So a big win for the Quitman Bulldogs. The upset of the weekend, in my opinion, was Orangefield putting a 21-burger on Woodville. I was super high on Woodville, and Orangefield 35-14 win over the Eagles. So lots of big wins this week, lots of big upsets, I think, but that was the beauty of week one in high school football.
Yeah, a lot of good ones there, KO. A lot of good ones.
All right, I got one more.
Hey,
Real
go ahead,
quick.
Jeremy. Go ahead.
No, so just an observation. I was, we were there Thursday night at the NAC Palestine game, and I'm an employee of Tyler ISD, work at Legacy, and so I was tuning into that game, and Legacy was leading Texas High, and then the worst thing that could have happened was the lightning delay. They had a 30-plus minute lightning delay, and they had done a really good job of shutting Texas High down. Texas High has the Oregon commit. I want to make sure I say his name right, but it's a Tredarian Ball. I know it's Ball, but I didn't want to mess up the first name because that's a big deal. They had shut him down up to that point, and again, it's about adjustments. But man, kind of a bummer because they had some momentum going, and then post lightning delay, the game kind of swung the other direction. I think Tredarian Ball had 4 or 5 touchdowns. I think he had 4 pretty close together. It seemed like every time I looked up, but then Legacy kind of punched back. And they've got a young guy, their senior is out hurt. So they have a sophomore named Kason Gray, who I think they saw some really good things from on Thursday night. And so I think they have some reason for optimism. And then another thing I saw was Royce City. Royce City put a thumping on Plano. I think it was East. And their quarterback he's a young guy, and he had 5 touchdowns on that night. So two guys that are that they need the teams need them to step up. And so, I think Legacy will be happy with where they were. I think they'd want the win, but they're going to be content with making a game out of that game. And then Royce City winning a game against Plano East for a team that struggled a little bit last year. So that was just 2 teams in the district that Legacy plays in that I saw that were impressive.
Well, just to capitalize on that DFW opportunity there, how about Rockwall Heath beating Highland Park?
Yeah.
That was a shocker. I mean, Highland Park, obviously, staple. And so Rockwall Heath beating Highland Park was one that was kind of shocked me. So
yeah, it's you talk Highland Park. I mean, they're a school that they always win. It seems like everything they're good at, Highland Park is. And so Yeah, shout out to Markwell Heath. All right, so let's see. Let's talk polls. We got our polls in for this upcoming week, and I'm interested to see kind of there were some teams that we had in that we've mentioned tonight that kind of I want to say laid an egg, but they didn't show what we thought they were in the preseason. Always that way. Week one, we kind of adjust. It's hard enough. Depends on the quality opponent, but it's hard to adjust. But we'll see how much change and shifting we have here in week one. All right, we're gonna do this week. I'm gonna do the 5 at a time. So I'm gonna do 15 through 11, and we'll discuss those and what do y'all think about them being there, and then we'll move up each 5 and kind of just have little mini discussions about this. And then once we're done, then we can kind of finalize and final thoughts, and then we'll move to another poll. All right, here we go. All right, we have in our poll for this week, calculated by our lovely pollsters at NETSN, at 15, we have a tie for 14th, actually. So it's going to be Honeygrove and New Diana, both tied at 14. We have Woodville still hung in the poll. They dropped from 3 to 13. They are in at 13. DCAB at 12 and Lovelady at 11. All right, guys. What are your thoughts on this? KO, you go first.
I was hoping you wouldn't go to me first. I had the 6A, 5A, 4A poll up because I thought we were starting big school first.
You are right. We normally do that, but I actually had that one up.
Okay, so can you repeat the 15 through 11 because I was getting my bit small school poll up.
That's all right. That's my fault. I went backwards this time on you. I threw a curve at you.
I wasn't sitting on it. I missed it.
That's all right. We got Honeygrove and New Diana at 14 as tied. We had Woodville at 13, DCAB at 12, and Lovelady at 11.
So, okay. I mean, all right. In my personally, I dropped. I had Woodville up at number 3. I dropped them to 15. I kept them in the poll, but I dropped them all the way to 15. I dropped out Shelbyville and Joaquin out of my poll, so I brought Frankston in, and I put Frankston in at 14. I dropped Liberty Islo from 8 to 13 in mine. Dangerfield 5 to 12, and Mount Enterprise moved up from 14 to 11 in my poll. So I'm going to be honest with you. Honeygrove, I know nothing about, so couldn't tell you there. Sure, but New Diana being at 14 is kind of interesting after they kind of got beat by Mount Vernon. I think that's a little interesting. I think with as many teams as we have in this poll, unless New Diana was up super high, which I know some people had them up super high, like second. If they were up super high like that, then I understand keeping them in. But I think there's so many teams in this poll that a loss, especially to a team that was not ranked, can do some damage to you.
I had 5 teams that I brought into the poll that weren't in last week. Now I did keep I did keep New Diana in. I had them at 7. I dropped them down to 11, so I did keep them in. But I also, we talked about teams that we didn't have in the poll that we kind of overlooked and didn't get in. Mine for this poll was Troop. I didn't have them in last week, and they shot up. Like Jaron said earlier, they shot up my poll like a rocket, and so I moved them way high, and we'll talk about them here in a minute. But I think this bottom few is going to be tough. My bottom 5 or the mine were I had ARP at 15, Frankson 14, DCAB 13, Mount Enterprise 12, and New Diana at 11 was who I had there. So those were my bottom 4. Jaron, what'd you have down there at the bottom? What do you think about what we have?
Yeah, so I don't have Lovelady in. Again, we'll just see as the season develops. I think they're a really good team. And then with New Diana, I don't have them in. I didn't have them in at preseason either. I just still think there's some questions. And so nothing against Coach Lane and what they're going to do. I think they're going to be really good, at least, in subsequent years. I just think there's we talked about in our preview show, just when the coach comes in that late in the game, there's just a lot to adjust to. So my 15, I had Beckville. I had them previously at 10. And obviously there's that was a lot going on that day, for that school district, and then combined with the crazy weather that night, it's hard to know what who they really are, right? From what I heard, Prince played a lot of defense, didn't really play a whole lot of offense, and so just not sure what the deal is with that. So, but because of the program, because of Coach Ross's history there, I still kept them in, but I did drop them from 10 down to 15. Dangerfield, and I know you're reveling a little bit, but I dropped it. They were at 6 in my poll preseason. I dropped them down to 14, kept them in because again they kind of had a similar deal last year, and they ended up having a good playoff run. So I didn't want to discount them completely. I brought in Gladewater. I mean, again, that's a big win for them. And I thought if I was going to have Dangerfield in the poll, I needed to put the team that beat him in the poll. And so I brought Gladewater in.
I think that's good. I think that's a good one. I think Gladewater. My thing with Gladewater is, that's a good week 1 win for them. I agree. I just want to see a few more follow that because we don't know how good these teams are yet. So I'm Gladewater is one I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on. I'll get to see them in person here in the next few weeks, and so I'll get to kind of see Gladewater. But yeah, I think they're one that's they're just right there, chomping at the bits. I put ARP in because they had a big impressive 49-0 win over Harleton. I mean, that was I don't know how good Harleton is comparably, but you go and spank somebody 49-0. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And then of course Frankston. How do you not have Frankston in after they beat Joaquin? I mean, that's super impressive.
Well, I mean, I did drop Joaquin out, right?
Yeah, but, I did too.
And the only and again, the only team I didn't have in that I put in this week was Gladewater. I did drop Liberty Allo down from 3 down to 12.
So you put Gladewater in that beat Dangerfield, who was in the poll, but you're not going to put Frankston in, who beat Joaquin, who was in the poll.
Yeah. So
okay,
and really just because again running out of spots here.
Jaren's poll needs about 100 spots, so he can get everybody in. He wants to. Jaren's our guy. He loves everybody. He wants everybody to be in, even if you're 0-10. So you're in Jaren's poll. You just put a spot in it.
No, and again, and part of that's because it's hard to drop some of these teams out that I put in preseason. Because week 1 was just so crazy. And so, and that's part of the reason why I think preseason polls are dumb.
They're fun to talk about though, Jaren.
Yeah. So, to finish out my bottom 15 or my bottom 5, then I had Grapeland. I had them, Liberty Allo dropped from 3 down to 12. And then Grapeland, they won, kind of a last minute, or a little over a minute left in that ball game, ended up defeating Cayuga. And so I think that was a good quality win, Cayuga. I think Coach McGee's doing a good job there. And so I bumped Grapeland up from 13 up to 11.
Okay. Jeremy, what did you think about this 5?
Yeah. I think this is that thing where I didn't even think about Woodville or DeKalb, right? I think sometimes, in my brain, I'm trying to figure out, I almost need the list of who is East Texas so I can be like, oh, yeah. Because sometimes you're trying to figure it out and you're trying to think in your head. I took a lot of teams that lost out of my poll. I did have Liberty Ilo way too high at 3, so I dropped them down to 7. I had Wasco up there at high, and I brought them down to 8. So both of those teams took a loss, so I moved them down some. I added 4 new teams. I added Overton. They had a big 45-0 win over Alba Golden. And again, I don't know exactly what Alba Golden's going to be, but that was a big stomping. So when you get somebody 45-0, I was like, okay, I'm going to throw them at 15. I had Gladewater at 14 with their big win. I had ARP at 13, and then Frankston at 12, and then I moved Mount Enterprise up from 14 to 11. So
I'm going to give y'all the same treatment y'all gave me. Okay, if we're going to go with this whole 40+ win thing, how about Elysian Fields and Coach Maines, his first career win as a head coach, 41-0 over Tenaha.
Did you put them in your poll, Jaren?
No, I didn't.
Then what's that? Why are you arguing? Then why are you arguing?
You're arguing against yourself?
I didn't use that logic. I didn't use that logic of a 40
Well, we
plus.
can't put everybody in, Jaron. Again, your theory. We can't put everybody in.
I
had 14
plus
teams.
win.
I had 14 teams, and I was trying to find a 15th, and I saw the Overton score, and I was like, okay.
So
and again, I probably should have looked. I forgot about some of those other ones. I'll admit it, but you got to.
Overton had a better year last year than Elysian Field. So if you were going to go off, they were probably ranked higher preseason, so they had the shorter route to go to get to the top 15. Jaron, come on now.
Yeah, but they also lost their quarterback and star receiver, and Elysian Fields has Nunu Kennedy, who's one of the top athletes in this part of the state.
Then put them in your poll, Jaron.
Then
put them in your poll. Why are you arguing for him when nobody put them in the poll?
I'm arguing about the whole 40-plus win margin, and so because you had one too, I think, KO, that you said, right? Or was it?
No, I put Frankston in. Because they beat Joaquin, and I knocked Joaquin out. So I used your theory of putting one in, the team that won, put them in, but you didn't even follow your own theory.
I said that because ARP had an impressive win over
ARP.
Halton.
You were the one that said that.
ARP was right on the edge of getting in the poll last week, though. They were right there. ARP. That's why I put them in.
Elysian, we didn't even talk about Elysian Field.
Elysian Field was not mentioned on the show at all.
We mentioned Overton.
No offense to Elysian Field fans out there.
No.
Show us, win a couple of games, and then you win by 40 plus, and then Jaron will put you in the poll again.
But if you beat the team that's in the poll, there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
Alba Golden, Tinaha.
Okay. All right.
Neither one of them made the playoffs. So what are we talking about, Jaron? Move on, Brett.
Let's go. Start at 10. We got Liberty Ilo at 10, Wascom at 9, Grapeland 8, Grand Saline 7, Troop 6. That's pretty solid. I've got my 10 through 6 spot. I've got Grand Saline at 10, Lovelady at 9, Grapeland 8, Wascom at 7, and Troop at 6. So it's it's a few in that same different, maybe a little different order, but I like that. I think Wascom, I had to drop them down a little bit just because they did lose, but they lost to a really good Garrison team. So I didn't I'm not going crazy with them, right? We're going to still have them in there. Again, I had Troop shot up here. I put Troop at 6. They weren't in my poll last week, and that was just an oversight. But they should have been in the poll. And that's my apology, Troop Tigers. You earned my respect. You went down to Shelbyville and you showed me who you are. So I shot you up like a rocket in the poll. Now, I will say that I didn't have to drop Dangerfield out of my poll because I didn't have him in my poll. So we'll see what Dangerfield's got. I'm interested. This week's Tatum Dangerfield game is going to be interesting to me because two teams that lost week 1. We didn't know how good Tatum would be. They competed against a really good Winsboro team. And then Dangerfield lost to a team of Gladewater, which I didn't have them on the radar. I thought they'd be improved, but that was a big win for Gladewater. So that's going to be interesting. But I think the poll it was pretty similar. Jaron, how did this one compare to what you have over there? Did you have this similar people in that area there?
So,
he's smiling.
One team that again we talked about them some, and this was I struggled with what to do with them was Atlanta. Because they got beat by a lot, but they played Pleasant Grove, right? And so, up in classification and one of the top 5 teams, arguably in that class, right, or top 8 teams in that class for Pleasant Grove. So, and so I have Atlanta at 10, Grand Saline to bump them up from 12 to 9. I really like DeKalb. I had them at 11, bumped them up to 8. Shot Troop up. Like I said, they're at 7, and I still have Wascom in there, just because of how good Garrison is. I have Wascom at 6.
Okay, a little better. Jeremy.
Well, I had 4 of the 5 teams in that grouping in those spots. I had them a little bit different order wise. I had Grand Saline. I had them at 12 last week, moved them to 10. Grapeland I had at 13. I bumped them up to 9, and then I had Wascom. They went from 4 to 8. And then I mentioned earlier I had Liberty Ilo at 3. They went to 7. So I dropped both of those teams 4 spots on the loss. And then my 6th, because I put Troop at 5, I have Palestine Westwood at 6.
Ooh, that's awful.
And that may be low, but they had a big win. So, but I had them last week. I had them at 9, so I moved them up to 6. So I did shuffle them up. I was just really impressed by Troop, and so anyway. That was my top.
I think Westwood's a little low there, Jeremy. Just saying.
It probably is. Show me. No, I'm just saying. I know they're going to show us something right, but no. I had them too low last week, and so I wanted to bump them up, and I did. I was just trying to, like, again, it's that week one. You're like trying to shuffle your pieces and who's coming in and out, and how far do you move somebody with an impressive win. And so I did have Troop last week at 11, and I jumped them up to 5. So they were my big mover, going up 6 spots.
KO, what do you think?
Troop was my big mover as well. But before we get to the big mover for Troop, I have a big dropper, not as big as Woodville, but I've dropped Wascom from 4 to 10. I get that they played a tough team in Garrison, but I had Wascom at 4 and Garrison at 9. So to get beat by 20 points by my 9th ranked team, I dropped them to 10th. So I got Wascom at 10. I moved Troop from 15th to 9th, so they cracked inside the top 10. I moved Lovelady up from 12 to 8, Malakoff from 10 to 7, and Grantline up 1 spot from 7 to 6. I mean, what I ended up doing on my picks is if you lost, you weren't going to go ahead of a team that won. I mean, pretty much. I'm trying to look. Yeah, I think all the teams that I have above Wascom all won the week before. So Wascom was my best team that lost last week, but they were also very high up. But yeah, I think, these teams in this area of the polls are really good football teams that I think are going to be consistent in the poll throughout the rest of the year. The ones through 11 through 15, I think may fluctuate, but I think these top 10 should be in there for the remainder of the season.
All right, let's do our top 5. We got Garrison at 5, Malakoff 4, Winsboro 3, Westwood 2, Jefferson jumps up to number 1 this week. So the only team in the top 5 that dropped out was Liberty Ilo from last week. The order did shuffle a little bit. We had last week Westwood was 1 and Malakoff 2, Jefferson 3, Winsboro 4. So now Jefferson 1. I had a pretty good on this one. Garrison I did have at 5 also. I had Malakoff at 4. Actually, I got every single one of these right on except the top 2. I had Jefferson 2 and Westwood 1. I still think with the 2 Bryants and Case and Dial in that group, until they prove me otherwise, they're my number 1 team in this classification. All right, Jaron, what do you think here?
So, last week I had Garrison at 8, bumped them up to 5. Malakoff, I had him at 2 last week, and they won, and they won by a decent amount. But just because of some of the shakiness against West Rusk, I dropped them down to 4. Westwood was at 4. I bumped them up to 3. And then Winsboro, who I had at 5, I shot them up to 2 just because I was just really impressed with them, just seeing them in person. And then Jefferson had them at 1 last week, kept them there at 1.
So Jaron, when you see Westwood in October, maybe you'll give them a chance to move up to that top spot.
Yeah, I mean, they're really good. I just think Winsboro, again, I really like what Coach Finney's doing. Nolie Carroll's really good. Camden Capehart's really good. Castleberry's really good. Just a lot of playmakers on that Winsboro team. So I hadn't seen enough yet to put Westwood, above Winsboro for me.
Kyle, what do you think?
I think it's funny that a team wins and drops in the poll. But I have at number 5, I have Grapeland. I moved them up from 6th to 5th. I moved Garrison from 9th up to 4th because I was impressed with their win over Wascom. Totally on me. Remember, I dropped 2 teams out. I've only included one that wasn't on last week's. Winsboro is who I moved in because I completely forgot about Winsboro in my preseason poll.
Wow.
I did.
You need a
hand up. That's
apology letter to Coach Finney there.
Hand up. That's on me. But I corrected the ship this week and I put them at number 3. So they went from unranked to number 3 in my poll. And then I have Jefferson at 2 and Westwood at 1. I mean, I still think it's going to come down to a Westwood and a Jefferson. I think hopefully in the regional final, or no, they'll play in state. They'll play in state if they both continue to win because they're in different regions. So. I think it's a Westwood Jefferson state championship game. I'm hoping for it. That'd be cool. But yeah, I think the top 5 teams are solid. I could make a case for all those being up there.
All right.
All right. Okay. I debated on whether I was going to say something. Okay. Yes. Malakoff won, and they dropped again in the top 5 and dropped 2 spots in my poll. But when you look at the 3 above them and their quality in their wins and in their margins of victory, to me, it was just hard for me to drop them below Malakoff.
So would you admit then you had Malakoff too high to begin with?
Yes, it's a preseason poll. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with Jaron here. I'd actually drop Malakoff as well, just because of I saw them what they looked like in that game, and they just.
So I get that. I get what you're saying, I agree that they may not look, but they still won. Isn't that the goal of the game? Is to get the win?
Did win.
You play to win the game. Shout out, Herman.
Yeah, but I think it's fair to look at wins, right? And compare wins and look at the opponents, right? I mean, I think that's fair.
So here's the deal. So if Team A beats a team 60-0, and it was a team we really thought was good, and then Team B beats a team 30-14, and we thought, and the other team they beat was like not a very good team. It was a close game, but we had Team A, we had them lower. I mean, I'm gonna move Team A above Team B if I had them close in the poll.
I guess my point for this one is it's been one game. We have such a small sample size. Like it's one game. So I'm with you. Like I agree. I look at overall body as we get deeper. When you have 4 or 5 games in, then I look at. Oh, okay.
Are you gonna say that word? Overall body of work. I feel like we're talking the BCS or something
now,
else like that.
But Kato, to your point, I think this is really the only week that we can really do this because there was so much unknown with the preseason, right? And as the weeks go on, we get a better idea, right? And so I do think you can't, the whole 1 week thing, right? Like in margin of victory type deal, we kind of lose that as the season progresses. But because it was going from a preseason poll to then your week 1, really first chance to see the teams, that's where I think we have a little bit of forgiveness to do that, right?
I'll agree. If you're gonna do it, it's better it makes more sense to do it early. It's almost like if you're gonna trade somebody, it makes sense to do it earlier than right before the season starts. So
are you gonna stop arguing? Can I at least say what my top 5 were? Y'all are arguing over here. I haven't even gotten to my top 5.
All right,
you can at least argue. You got to critique mine too. Y'all are leaving me out. I feel left out here. No,
they will. Trust me.
No, I'm sure it's all right. It's coming. No, again,
the disrespect.
I had Westwood at 6. I'll admit that's too low, but again, I had them at 9, so I did move them up. And part of that was kind of the same thing. Like teams above them didn't lose, and so I left them. I did jump troop above them. That's that could be debatable. I'm okay there. So my 4 was Winsboro. I had them at 7. I moved them up to 4. Garrison I had at 5. I moved them up to 3 with the win. And then I had Malakoff at 2, and I kept them at 2. And then Jefferson was 1, and I kept them at 1. So that's the reason I did what I did. So I left my 1 and 2 the same because they both held serve. Now, granted, I was hoping Malakoff would win by a little bit more and justify my 2 maybe. But, and again, I think this is the harder – both polls are not easy, but I think this poll is much harder to do because I feel like there's so many more teams to choose from, right? I mean, I admitted I didn't have Lovelady. I didn't have DeKalb, right? I mean, there were the bottom 5, mine were completely different than the bottom 5 of the poll that overall. And so I think that's the fun thing about it. It's also the hard thing one weekend.
Well, and the more and more games we have, those 11 through 15 will probably kind of shake themselves out a little bit clear. Yeah, as we have more games. All right.
That was my 5. I'll take the L if you got one. So
let's go to the big school poll. Again, this was I agree with you, Jeremy. I think this one was a little more. I mean, there's still will be some, here and there differences, but I think there'll be some more consistency in some of our rankings here. All right, so we had for this week, we'll start 15 through 11. Center drops 1 spot from 14 down to 15. We had Pine Tree drops from 11 to 14. Van stays at 13. Athens is now 12. They drop 1 spot from 11. And Lindale is now at 11, dropping 3 spots after winning. I'm listening to Kyle. Kyle, What do you got to say there, KO? What do you have?
I want to know that they didn't struggle. They wasn't close. They blew out the team on the road, but they still dropped. Make it make sense. I don't
know. Hey, Kyle, I'll say this: I didn't move Lindale. I kept him in the same spot, so it was not me.
I moved them up, so I don't. Anyway, my 15 through 11, I dropped Pine Tree 2 spots at 13 to 15. They did lose to Gilmer, but I had Gilmer ranked in my top 10, so I'm not going to punish a team too bad for losing to a team that's already ranked. I moved White House up 1 spot, 15 to 14. Lindale up 1 spot, 14 to 13. And then Van and Athens were already at 11 and 12 for me, so I kept them where they were because they held serve with wins. But yeah, Lindale dropping 3 spots with winning convincingly is interesting. That I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I didn't go through mine. I had Pine Tree at 15. I left off Van last week, so they were right on the edge for me, and so I moved them into the poll at 14. Center, I put them at 13. I have Sulphur Springs at 12 and Marshall at 11. So those are my top. Jaron, who you got down there in that 11 through 15?
So we got Tyler at 15 again. With a loss, but I still think they deserve to be in the poll. The big, competed well against Marshall there. Pine Tree kept them at 14. Center's at 13. Athens is at 12. Lindale's at 11. Marshall's at 10. So that's
okay.
I didn't. There was not a lot of movement at all, except one that we'll talk about in a minute for me. From my preseason blunder there.
I'm sure there's going to be some movement in your poll this week, Jaron.
Yeah. So,
I'm very certain.
But yeah. So So those are my bottom 5 there.
Jeremy, 11 through 15.
Yeah, so my bottom 5, I had Tyler at 15. Lufkin, I moved them down. I had them higher up last week, and I moved them down to 14. Center was 13 for me. Van 12, and then Athens 11. And I had Van and Athens 11 I think I moved them each up 1 spot. So
okay,
they were pretty close. So I moved several teams up. I took out Pine Tree out of the poll for me, and so.
Okay. Let's see. All right, let's go to the next grouping. We've got a tie at 10th, so a tie for 9th technically. Sulphur Springs and Marshall tied at 9. Gilmer at 8. Lufkin 7. Pleasant Grove 6. Let's see. I had in my poll, I had Athens at 10, Pleasant Grove 9, Lindale 8, Lufkin at 7, and Gilmer at 6. So it was some of the same teams there. What do you think about that one, Jaron?
Yeah, so and I said them a while ago, when the spot too fast, but I got Marshall at 10, then Gilmer at 9, kept them the same. Sulphur Springs is at 8. I've moved Chapel Hill, who I had low. The threats were just getting too much. I just couldn't deal with them anymore. So I was tired of wearing that bag on my head. So they're at 7, and then Lufkin's at 6. So.
All right. KO, yeah.
I had my 10. This one was really simple. I didn't make much movement in this. 10, 9, 8, and 7 all stayed the same. I have Gilmer at 10, Marshall at 9, Sulphur at 8, T-High at 7. I had Lufkin at 4. I dropped them 2 spots to 6th because they lost to the 3rd-ranked team, Longview. And I get it. The score is 41-16, but I can't punish a team. When I had them up 4, I don't want to drop them too much because I still think Lufkin's going to be really good this year. So that was kind of what I had in mind, but it was a pretty non-moving, other than the top 5 kind of moving around. It didn't really move a lot in this poll.
Jeremy?
Yeah, so I had Lindale at 10. And they were last week. I had them 11. I had Sulphur down at 9, Marshall at 8, Gilmer 7, and then I moved Kilgore down to 6. And that was kind of one of those weird ones where I think I had them 4th last week. And so I moved them down just because of the loss. So I moved them down 2 spots. Again, they're going to move right back up. There'll be a point where they come up. But it was kind of one of those things where a couple of teams ahead of them got wins, and so I moved them up. And so I felt like there had to be a little bit of a drop, for taking a loss, but again, not too much and not crazy. I did drop Lufkin much farther for the loss, mainly because of the spread. But again, they'll move back up again later, so I dropped them down in the bottom 5 of my poll. So,
okay, top 5: Chapel Hill at 5, Texas High at 4, Kilgore at 3, Longview at 2, and our number 1 team again this week is the Carthage Bulldogs. I had actually that exact same order. I had Chapel Hill, Texas High, Kilgore, Longview, and Carthage. Anyone else have that exact order? No? Okay. Go ahead, KO. Tell us what order you had them in.
I had Pleasant Grove at 5. I moved them up from 6th to 5th. I moved Chapel Hill from 5th to 4th. So I had PG and then Chapel Hill. And then I just dropped Kilgore 1 spot. You lose by 11 to Carthage. I just dropped them 1 spot. I moved Longview up 1 spot from 3 to 2. So I had PG, Chapel Hill, Kilgore, Longview, and Carthage as my top 5.
Okay. Jeremy?
I had Texas High as my 5, Chapel Hill 4. I had PG at 3, Longview 2, Carthage 1. So
okay.
And I had Pleasant Grove. I had my 3-2-1 stay the same. So I had PG at 3, Carthage, Longview. I had Kilgore right behind Pleasant Grove. And then Chapel Hill was my big mover. They went from 7 to 4 for me. So I moved them up a few spots because of the big win, and
it was sort of a big
more
move.
than that, but
not quite as big as they moved in Jaron's poll.
No. But I did move them up. I was impressed by them, and I think Texas High didn't do anything wrong. I just thought Chapel Hill's win was really, really impressive, especially with a few question marks. And so, I think that Kilgore Texas High one was really tough for me. I went back and forth a couple times.
Hey Jeremy, you mean that Chapel Hill scored 49 points and there wasn't a Brisbane or a Stewart on the field?
That's what I heard. That was the rumor on the street anyway. Yeah.
They had Blaylock, though.
Yeah. Jaron, have you heard of that guy? You might want to look him up.
DeMarcion? Is that how you say it?
Yep,
yeah.
DeMarcion Blaylock. He 5 touchdowns. That'll help.
I feel better, though. Jaron's back on the Chapel Hill bandwagon, so it's good. Jaron, what's your top 5 there?
So T-High at 5, PG at 4, Kilgore at 3. My top 5 stayed the same. Kilgore at 3, Longview at 2, Carthage at 1.
Okay. There's a little difference in some of the 5, but I feel like the top, 6 or 7 teams, we've all kind of got them maybe in some kind of different order, but pretty similar. I think it's a solid poll. Is there anybody that y'all saw that maybe, that deserves to get a look that's not in the poll that maybe I think it's pretty solid? What do y'all think?
Yeah, if they would have deserved a look, I would have put them in my poll.
There you go. Win some games, and you can jump in, right, Kev? Is that how it works? Just win, baby.
Sure. Just win. Win and you're in. That's how I look at it. Win and you might drop some, but win and you're in.
There you go. Speaking of wind, you ready to pick some games? It's week 2.
Boom.
All right. Here we go. Week 2, we got game 1 Thursday night. It's going to be Beckville versus Joaquin. Both teams coming off losses in week 1. This one was a little. It's one of those tough ones for me. I'm like, how we talked about Beckville. They had a little tragedy last week. How much did that affect them against St. Augustine and Joaquin going over to Frankston and just taking the pretty significant loss? To me, I'm going to put trust in the Rams. I'm going to go with Joaquin in this one to get the win. I just think at Frankston, we talked about how good Frankston we thought they were going to be this year. I think that's a loss they're going to use to motivate them this week. So I'm going to get them. I'm going to take them for the win. What do you think about that, Jaron? What do you got in that first game?
Man, when the polls dropped today, I was like, "Dead gum," because these first 3 for me are a little difficult. But I've got Beckville ranked still in my poll, and I dropped Joaquin out. So I'm going to try to stay true there, and so I'm going to go with Beckville.
Okay. All right. Jeremy, who you got?
I'm gonna go with the Rams. I think it's again. I'm gonna lend the home field advantage is the decider for me here. Again, both teams are going to come hungry off of losses that weren't expected, right, for either one really. And so I think the advantage in slight is going to be to Joaquin at home, but I think it's a 5 point or less difference. I think it's going to be really, really close. I think it's going to come down to something late that goes one way or the other, but I'm going to go Joaquin.
KO?
I'm taking Beckville. I just think that, they got shut out for the first time under Cody Ross last week. I think they're going to be highly motivated to come out and perform well. I understand Joaquin lost as well, but I'm just going to go with Beckville, especially after everything that went on last week and then getting shut out. I just think they turn it around this weekend and pick up a win. So I'm taking the Bearcats.
All right. Game 2, Dangerfield at Tatum. Both teams coming off losses in week 1 also. The game that will be on NETSN. Jaron, what are you thinking here? You're not wearing your green shirt today, but are you going to go green this week?
So here, and again, I struggle with this one here. I'm going to go because I still have them in my poll. I'm going to go with Dangerfield. I do wonder, though, because Tatum can run the ball well. And I just reading some things on Smokey and stuff. That was something that Dangerfield had an issue with Gladewater, was stopping the run. But the Tatum offense still has a lot to kind of work through. Again, that offense, that flex bone triple option is pretty complex, and you got a lot of first year starters, on the offensive side of the ball. It was close for me, it really was, but I am going to go with Dangerfield.
Man, that took a lot for you, didn't it, to pick against your Tatum Eagles? Yeah. Oh, all right. Speaking of Eagles, Mr. Eagles down there, KO, what do you got?
Well, from what I saw Thursday with Winsboro against Tatum, it seemed like Tatum, the only success they had, and granted, I was only there for the first half. I watched a little bit of the second half, but the only success it seemed they had was when a play broke down, when Adcock was rolling out and the play would break down and Adcock had to make something happen.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a sustainable offense. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have to be able to actually run they weren't able to run the football very well in the first half anyway against the Winsboro defense that is getting better, but is not there yet. They're not to the point of their offense. So that worries me a little bit with Tatum. But like Jaron said, a bunch of first-year starters in that system, they'll get better as the year goes on for sure. Dangerfield scoring just 7 points against Gladewater is interesting to me. Dangerfield struggled out of the gate last year. I don't see that happening again. I'm going to take Dangerfield. Just from what I saw with Tatum last week, I didn't see Dangerfield, but I just think Dangerfield maybe has the athletes on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball to contain Tatum. So I'm going to take Dangerfield.
Yeah, I do think
close though.
I do think the fullback for Tatum though they call him Freight Train more. I think he's going to get better and better as the season goes on. And that defensive front, like you said, Winsboro, they're not quite to their offense yet, but that defensive front is good for Winsboro, and that's a tough line to run into. So I do think they're definitely going to have more success this week than they did last week, and I think more for sure is going to get better. But yeah, I agree with you, KO.
Jeremy?
I'm gonna go with Dangerfield. I know they only scored 7, but they also only gave up 21. Tim gave up 55. That makes me nervous. I know Winsboro is really good. Like there's no doubt about it. But I think if you're young and you're bringing in some new guys on the offense trying to get that rolling, if your defense gives up 55, you're not really giving yourself a shot. I just worry about that again. And I think Dangerfield's going to come in pretty angry, losing a game they felt like they probably shouldn't have lost. I think Tatum would admit that they knew it was going to be a tough sled to go into Winsboro, right? Where I think Dangerfield is probably surprised they didn't win. And so I think that's going to be the motivation. So I've got Dangerfield, but I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah, you guys have said it. I mean, both these teams are coming off losses. It's like comparing apples to oranges. You don't know what you're comparing. You know Winsboro's a really good team. We're not sure how good Gladewater is. I mean, Gladewater may be a really good team this year. We just don't know. And Tatum and Gladewater, well, if we could play that game first and see how they compare, they'll play later in the season, but we can't right now. So there's no way to really compare it. I just think that Tatum is just young, and I think as the season goes, they will get better, but this is only week 2. And so I'm going to take Dangerfield too. I think this could be a really good game. I think it could be a classic. And I think you should tune in and watch this game on NETSN. I think that's probably what you should do. Just tune in to find out how good this game is. Speaking of games on NETSN, game 3, now we're on Friday. Carlisle versus Overton. Man, another good one. Overton coming off a big win. Carlisle playing a tough Mount Enterprise team just to the wire last week. This one's tough, but what Coach Baker's got going on right now, I know Coach Laments and them have a great season, but they lost a ton. Carlisle's got a lot of guys back, and I'm going to go with the Carlisle Indians to get the win in week 2. I think Coach Baker keeps them rolling in a positive momentum last week. I think that was even though they lost, it was a positive game just because, coming in and Mount Enterprise highly recruited Keegan Ash in the game. I think what they played adversity wise with the lights going out, playing them right to the end. I think Carlisle gets the win here in week 2. KO, who you got here?
This one's kind of a tough one for me because I hear everything you're saying about Carlisle playing them tough, but Overton pitched a shutout. And I don't know how good Alba Golden is, but I know Pop said he saw him in the scrimmage and didn't look that great. But again, scrimmages are scrimmages for a reason. But to go out and to shut out a team is impressive. So I don't know, man. I'm going to give it to Overton. I'm going to take Overton in this one. I think Carlisle is improved, but I think Overton's got just enough talent to put them over the edge. I think it's going to be a really close game, though. I don't think it's probably a one-possession game and maybe somebody scoring at the end to win it, but I think I'm going to take Overton.
Jeremy, who you got?
Oh, geez. I was hoping you were going to go to me last so I could see what the crapshoot left was. No, man, I don't know. Like, right, I'm impressed by Overton's win, like KO said. I mean, 45-0 is a big deal. But I've also seen Carlisle play a couple times. I think if this game were in Carlisle, it would be an easy pick for me to pick Carlisle. I think it's a little bit tougher because it's in Overton. I'm going to lean Overton by a slight edge, but I would not be shocked if Carlisle won it.
Okay,
let's say that.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm really pumped. I'll be at this game, broadcasting this game on NETSN. Really excited. I think it was one that, before the season started, I was like, man, I hope he puts me on this game because I was looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good game. I get what you're saying that Overton lost a lot, but they also have a lot of guys on the offensive side of the ball that played a lot last year. And so, yeah, you're losing Bryce Steele, losing Jaden Edwards, but you've got Holman back, you've got Weir back, you've got Miller back. And even with some of those questions on offense, they put up 45 points, right? And so I think it's going to be a closer game than it was last year for sure, but I'm going to go with Overton.
Okay. Game 4, Garrison versus ARP in a game that was last year. I think the game was like a one possession game. It was a really good game last year. ARP, a team that just popped into my poll, and Garrison's kind of been up there. Jeremy, we're going to throw this one to you first. What do you think, Garrison versus ARP?
I'm going to go with Garrison. I was impressed with how they beat Wascom, and again, ARP came off a win as well. But I think the Bulldogs get this win in ARP. I think it'll be a good game. I think it's probably a single score game, but I'm going to go with the Bulldogs.
Jaron?
So I have firmly planted both feet on the Garrison Bulldog train. I'm going to ride it. I'm just going to keep riding it. I think it's going to be a really good season. So, I mean, I think, ARP, I think it's going to be a good game. I don't know. I think it's going to be Garrison, and I'm going to say 2 scores. Garrison by 2 scores.
KO.
This is the Red Zone game of the week this week.
Oh.
Garrison at ARP. So I will be in ARP Friday night to watch this one and have boots on the ground for us next week. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really good game. I was really impressed with Garrison's win over Wascom. Really impressed with ARP's shutout victory over Harleton. That is an impressive start for Coach Schminke and the boys. I'm more impressed with Garrison's win. I think Wascom is a better team than Harleton, so I'm more impressed with the 20-point win for Garrison. So because of that, I know they're playing at home. ARP, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a lit atmosphere there Friday night, but I'm going to take Garrison to go in. I'm kind of with Jaron on this. I'm playing it on the Garrison bandwagon. Coach Alvarez is doing a really good job with those boys, so I'm taking Garrison Friday night. But it should be a really good game.
Yeah, I think y'all are onto something here. Like, I think the ARP Tigers are going to have a great season, and I think this is going to tell me a lot about their season, win or lose this game. You know, they played Garrison hard last year, but Garrison's coming off a win that I don't think anybody really saw coming as far as the score differential. It was an impressive statement that they made week one, and it's hard to go against that. Like, as much as I'd love to see ARP get this win here, it's just hard to pick against Garrison on this one. So I'm gonna stick with Garrison as well. I think this is gonna be a good game, though. I think it's gonna be a game you're glad you're at, KO, and I'll be looking forward to what you have for us next week on this one, because I honestly think that this is one of the better like little school games around in this area. That's the matchup this week, and so but I'm gonna go with Garrison as well. All right, game 5. The Pine Tree Pirates travel over to the little city of Van. The Van Vandals will host the Pine Tree Pirates this week in a game that's another one that's very intriguing. You got Van coming off a win over Swaggy's boys, the Dallas Carter Cowboys, and then Pine Tree playing a tough Gilmer team week 1. We just don't know enough about like how good a win was that for Van, and versus, you know, we know what Gilmer is. I know they are a really good team, and Pine Tree played them tough. So for me, I'm going to go with what I know. And what I know is that Pine Tree played hard against a really good team. I just don't know what the quality win of Van was. So I'm going to go with Pine Tree going into Van and getting the win on the road. All right. Let's go, Jaron.
Yeah. So Van was one of those teams that left out my poll, not necessarily on purpose, just running out of spots. And so trying to stay true to my votes and my poll, I'm going to pick Pine Tree. But this is a week. This is going to tell us a lot about both teams. And I think it's going to be a really, really good game. Definitely probably one of the better 4A matchups, around this week. Obviously, you got Justin Gilmore.
I was going to say there's one that's probably a little bit.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to be better than that one, but it's going to be a really good matchup.
Yeah. No, I think the matchup. I think you're correct on that.
Yeah. So I've got Pine Tree.
I was like, don't forget about my Bulldogs again, Jaron.
I won't.
Easy. All right, Jeremy. What do you think?
Oh, geez. Yeah. I'm gonna go with the Van Vandals at home, but I think it's going to be a good one. I could be completely wrong, and this is my flyer for the week. I'm going to take a chance on Van here and go with them. And again, Pine Tree could win this one, and I wouldn't be shocked. But I'm going to go with Van on the maybe a minor upset.
Hey, Jaron, just for reference, who's in the booth with you this season most of the time?
Yeah, and I'm sure I'll hear it in my ear.
Okay, I was checking that you were.
I can always mute it. So. Jeremy, actually, he runs the roadie most of the time, so he can mute me, which is scary. So.
KO, you got?
I'm going to go with my boy JT. I'm taking the Van Vandals.
He said, see, what happened is they've got this. If you missed last week's show, Jaron and Kyle have this debate on. Did this clear? Whose boy?
We've got it. It's cleared up. Don't have no fear. It's cleared up, Brett.
Okay.
No, I do think though, like. Van went into Pine Tree last year, even after Pine Tree came away with that with a big win over Gilmer in week 1. Van nearly beat Pine Tree last year in Pine Tree. really came close to that win. I think, Van got up by, 3 scores over Carter, and then Carter nearly came back and beat him, which has kind of been the MO of Van here recently in these past few years. They've gotten out to these big leads, but then at the end of the game, it's always interesting because there's a comeback of some sort. So I'm going to take Van because they're at home, and I just think that, winning is a momentum builder, right? So Van coming off a win, Pine Tree coming off a loss. I understand Pine Tree's opponent was probably better than Van's opponent, but you know what? Van and Gilmore will play later in the year, so we'll see exactly how they match up then. But I'm taking the Van Vandals over Pine Tree this Friday night.
All right. Game 6. We got Kilgore versus White House at Wildcat Stadium. That game will be on NETSN. Look, Kilgore is going to be ticked off. They came in, they thought they were going to beat Carthage. They're about to be mad. They're going to be very mad. I know this game last year was a pretty close game. And, as much as I love what I saw from White House this week, they weren't playing Kilgore last week, unfortunately. And so I think this could be a good game. I think Kilgore is going to come out with the win, though, on the road in White House. Jaron, who you got?
Yeah, so again, a great win for White House on week 1 on the road, but they got a lot of young guys, right? A lot of youth playing for them. And I mean, this is a tall order, particularly at this point in the season. And like you said, Kilgore's they're looking for blood. And so I think they're going to be ready, just be really ready to make somebody pay for last week. And so I think I'm going to go with Kilgore, unless, we'll see. Unless just discipline just gets kind of out of control there, right, for the Kilgore team. But I do think Kilgore's going to win.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I think Kilgore gets the win. I think the first quarter is going to determine how much of a win they get. I think if Kilgore gets off to a hot start, I think White House will be in trouble. I think if White House can keep it close early, then I think it's going to be a back and forth, right? I think, it's tough, right? When you play a team that is going to be really good, if they can get a hot start and get up a couple scores early, that's hard to mentally get over when you have a lot of young guys. But I think if White House can keep that battle going early and keep it tight, then I think it'll be a good game down the stretch. But I've got Kilgore on the vengeance tour coming in and getting the dub in Dub House. So,
KO?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Kilgore is going to come out very angry this week after taking a loss, and I think they're going to take it out on White House. Now, I don't think it's going to be a complete blowout. I think White House will battle and will hang tough with them, but I've been on the Kilgore bandwagon since this offseason. I think they're one of the best teams in 4A in the state of Texas. So I'm going to take Kilgore to go in and get the dub.
All right. Game 7. The Chapel Hill Bulldogs travel to Gilmer to face the Gilmer Buckeyes. All right. Jaron, you're Mr. Chapel Hill Bulldogs. What are you going to pick here?
You got to go to Jaron first. That's a given, right?
First.
And again, going back to the poll, I shot them up pretty high. I got them just above Gilmer in the poll. I do think just reading and watching a little bit about the week 1 they had, because my question was playmakers, right? Like, who do they have as playmakers? Well, that question got answered, particularly with Blaylock, like you said earlier, KO. And so, I think, I'm going to go with Chapel Hill. Now, I do think, Gilmer's got a really good running back that we saw in scrimmage. I don't know what his number is for the season, but it makes you see how he does. But I'm gonna go with Chapel Hill.
KO, who you got?
This is a tough one, man. This is reminiscent as well. 2 years ago, when I first started with the Red Zone, this was our first game of the week, Chapel Hill at Gilmer. So I got to first experience Coach Reardon in the locker room and the team singing "Lean on Me," which was awesome. Saw a shootout in Gilmer that night.
That was a lot of points. It was like 120 points, wasn't it? Like it was like 70 to 50 something, I think.
Yeah, it was 70 to 50 something. It was a lot of points. But Brett, you talked about Coach McFarland and the defense being much improved from last season. the whole Jasper to 7 points is impressive. I mean, that is Jasper I think is going to be a team that can put up some points this year. So Chapel Hill's defense does look much improved from last year. Coach McFarland would love to hear that from me. But I think they're doing well. This one's tough, man. I think I'm gonna go with Chapel Hill just because, like Jaron said, the playmakers I know Malik G's over there. I know DeMarcion Blaylock's over there. Like, I know the playmakers on Chapel Hill. I don't know who the playmakers are for Gilmer. I understand they put up 41 points. One of those was a blocked field goal for a touchdown. So 30 plus by the offense alone. But I know Gilmer's at home. I know there's a lot of renewed enthusiasm there, but I'm just going to take the Chapel Hill Bulldogs in this one. I just think they're going to go into Gilmer and get a win.
Jeremy?
I'm gonna be on the Chapel Hill Bulldog bandwagon here again. I love the Buckeyes. I think they're a great team. I think this is that. Yeah, I think Chapel Hill takes the win here. I think it's gonna be a great game again. I'm gonna be excited to kind of keep up with the score and try to tune in a little bit as it goes. But I think Chapel Hill gets the win here. I think it'll be close, but I think they've got the dub.
Man, I'm surprised. I thought I was going to be on. I thought at least I'd have somebody that would try to go against my Bulldogs in this week. But, man, I'm going with my Bulldogs, man. Just an impressive win. I think, with everyone kind of wondering, okay, where is the offensive production going to come from? When you have two guys like Brisbane and Stewart there for 4 years that just really led the offense. Last year with the issues that we had with the injuries of Stewart and Brisbane being out, Malik G kind of stepped in and was able to get some extra games under his belt. I really think that last year it probably maybe I won't say hurt them, but it affected their ability to go deep in the playoffs just because of his inexperience. But that experience now is gained because starting week 1, he's already been with them. Of course, they did well in the state 7-on-7. The ability of them to be able to throw the football around this year is really going to help Chapel Hill, and they've got guys that can run. So the balanced attack, I think, is really going to be tough to stop. And so I'm going to take Chapel Hill on the road in Gilmer. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be the same game we saw a couple of years ago, Kyle, 70-50. I mean, maybe, but I just think the defense is improved enough that they're not going to have to score as many points.
Well, and Gilmer doesn't have the offense that they had a couple of years ago either. Like these are two different teams that we're going to see Friday night. But I do think, like you said, I think it's going to be lower scoring. I think it's going to be a close game, one possession game. I think. I think these teams are very even.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we got these next three are what we call the rivalry section of the pick'ems. We've got Marshall and Longview, longtime rivals there. And again, I'm going with Longview. I think until the Lobos show me anything different. I mean, evidently they got Washingtons for days over there, so they've got guys, coming up. I don't think there's any concern. I know Marshall, is a good football team, but they struggled in week 1 as far as what we thought they would do. We thought they would go and handle Tyler High. Now, I don't know if it could be a credit to Tyler High's improvement or Marshall just maybe didn't play well. I don't know, but man, I think Longview takes this one and moves on to the next week. All right, Kay, what you got?
Yeah, I'm taking the Lobos in this win. I mean, in this is going to be a good game. I think it'll be closer than a lot of people maybe are imagining because it is a rivalry game, right? Like anything can happen. But Longview's clearly the better team. I mean, we thought Longview may take a step back this year with everybody that they lost, but watching them in person on the field, I don't know if they took a step back at all. They may be better than they were last year, which is a scary thought. But Marshall, concerned me a little bit with how they struggled with Tyler High, but I think it says more about Tyler High than it did about Marshall. But with all that being said, Longview is still Longview, so I'm taking the Lobos.
Jaron?
Yeah, I mean, even if this game was at Maverick Stadium, I would still pick Longview, but even more so because it's in Lobo Stadium, I'm going to pick Longview.
Jeremy?
Longview Lobos for the win. Again, I'm not picking against them. They're my number 2 team in the poll, and yeah, I'm not going to pick against them until they tell me I can't. Right? Until they show me a reason why not to. Why start? Right? They've been the class of this area whether it's 5A, 6A for a while now. And Coach King has he's got a culture and a program that continues to churn out athletes, but not only athletes, they churn out great teams, right? Because you can have a bunch of athletes that don't play together, but these Longview Lobos all play for the L, and they do a great job of it. And so I think they're going to get a win there.
My only caveat would be it's the rocking L, Jeremy, not just the
That's
normal
true.
L. It's a
That's
rocking
true. It is a
L.
rocking L.
But my only caveat would be with Coach King. Is he going to be on the sidelines? Is he coaching? Is he going away for surgery? Like what's the status of Coach King? Because I think that matters in this game, because especially being a rivalry game, if it's your first game without your head coach in a rivalry game, an intense atmosphere like that, how does the team perform there? But I still think they win, but that would be my only caveat is if Coach King isn't on the sidelines, how does Longview look?
Yeah, but that can also be a favor in a sense, right? Just as far as, battling for your coach, right? Who wants to be there. Again, we're not sure if he's going to be on the sidelines or not. But if he's not, I could see that as definitely something to propel him even more, for that victory. But that's a good point, though.
All right, game 9, another rivalry. Lufkin and Nacogdoches. I wish we had Brandon Ogden here with this. He'd have a good take for this game, as he's down there from that area. But all right, Ko, what do you think about this one? That Lufkin Nacogdoches.
I was impressed with Lufkin early on in last week's game, and I know it's not going to seem like it, but the defense did play well. I know they gave up 41 points, but the defense did play well. They just got worn down. I don't think Nacogdoches has the horses. Now, Jeremy, you saw him Thursday, but I don't think Nac has the horses to wear down Lufkin like Longview did. So I think Lufkin performs better this week. They're going to want to get Coach Absek a win early on here and not drag this out. You know what I mean? So I think what better time to get a win than against your arch rival in the Nacogdoches Dragons. So I'm going to take Lufkin to beat Nac. I do think it's a closer game, though. I think Nac has improved a little bit this season, which is encouraging, but I don't think they're to the level of Lufkin yet. So I'm going to take the Pack. Go Pack, go.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We saw Nac play, and really they were more effective. I think they kind of wore down Palestine. Like, I don't think, you know what I mean? And again, it was 7-7 early. It ended up being, they blocked a punt for a touchdown, and that really flipped the script. Like, it changed that whole complexion of the game. They blocked a punt for a TD, and then the same guy comes back a couple plays later. The next possession scores another touchdown, and then it just felt like the dam opened. But I think Lufkin bounces back here. I think Lufkin's going to get this one. I think it's going to be, obviously it's a rivalry game. It's going to be a better game, even if they weren't both better. But I think Nac is a better team than I thought. But I think this is the kind of game that gets a freshman, right? Your rivalry, you've known it since you were growing up. This is the team, right? And so I think this is the game where the freshman might show a little bit of his freshmanness, if that's a word. But yeah, I think the lack of experience may show up a little bit here.
Jaron?
Yeah, as we've all said, Nac's heading in a really good direction. They are, definitely Coach House is doing a good job with those guys. But I'm going to go with Lufkin.
All right. Did I say anything yet? Did I pick mine yet?
Mm-mm.
You didn't pick me.
I didn't pick mine yet. I'm going with the Lufkin Panthers. I saw Nac, and the way they won it was more of it was kind of a game of it was a lot closer than it really looked on the scoreboard. Palestine played with them. Jeremy mentioned it. The block punt was the game changer, and that kind of turned the tide for them. I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to compete in their district, but they are stepping up to a 5A Division I Lufkin team that's a perennial power. Lufkin played Longview last week, so it's hard to say how they're going to be this year. But I think in this game, I think Lufkin's just a little too much for Nacogdoches. I think, again, Coach House has them going the right way. And I think in a couple of years, this game may be a little bit more contested as far as it being a little closer. But I think right now, I think Lufkin is just still a little bit too far ahead of Nacogdoches for them right now. So I'm going with Lufkin. All right, game 10, the Battle of the Roses. We got Tyler High versus Tyler Legacy. I'm going to throw it to my expert in Tyler ISD, Jeremy Diamond, to go first. Jeremy,
man,
how do you pick this one? This is it's a toss up, right? I mean, flip a coin.
Yeah. The crazy thing is, I think I was impressed by both groups, right? They played two really good teams, right? Tyler Legacy plays Texas High, and who knows what happens if there's not a lightning delay. They had a lead and they were playing well. And then you got a Tyler Lions team who was again in the lead in the same kind of frame until late. But the weird thing about this rivalry is it feels like the team that shouldn't win most often wins, right? There's been so many years where one of the two teams was just dominant and they were going to blow them out, and then all of a sudden something crazy happens, right? And you're like, what in the world just happened? How did that go? I mean, I remember the year that Legacy had the freshman opening kickoff, takes it 106 yards for a touchdown, and it was all Legacy, and they were supposed to get blown out, And so, and I've got my kids on the Legacy side that I've known for a long time, and then I've got a young kid we're mentoring from Tyler High who starts for them at guard, and so either way I'm going to have somebody mad at me, but I'm gonna go with Legacy is the home team, and I'm going to take a flyer on Legacy. Right, I know the home team. Right, they're going to be on the side with the nicer bathrooms, so that gives you the home side a little bit bigger concession stand. No, I'm gonna go with Legacy on a little bit of an upset here. I think they're gonna win it late. So sorry for the long diatribe, but there you go.
That's all right. Jaron, who you got?
Yeah, I'm a believer in what Coach Woods is doing. I had them enter my poll this week, so I'm gonna go with Tyler.
KO?
I almost echo everything Jeremy said. Like, I don't think I was more impressed with two teams and losses than both Tyler teams. Like, and I know it's a crazy thing to say, and the coaches don't care about that because it's still a loss in the column. But I was impressed with how Tyler High competed with Marshall, and very impressed with Legacy against Texas High. I'd be completely honest, didn't expect that game to be close at all. Like, I didn't think Legacy had a shot, but they really showed me something with some fresh pieces there. So I think this one's going to be really, really fun on Friday night. My question is, will the defenses show up? Because Legacy's defense gave up a lot of points. Tyler High's defense
is optional, KO. It's optional.
It may be a 50-40 type game that we're in store for Friday. But you're right, Jeremy. These two teams, when they get together, throw the records out. Doesn't matter. It does not matter what's been done in the past. It only matters that Friday night. I'm not going with Legacy because of the home field advantage, because there is no home field advantage. But I will take I'm taking Tyler High. I'm just impressed with Coach Woods and what I really think, if you're comparing the programs, right? Both coaches came in at the same time, Coach Trahan over at Legacy and Coach Woods over at Tyler High. If you're comparing them in step with how they're progressing, I think Tyler High is a little bit further ahead than Legacy is. And that's not a knock on Legacy. I think Legacy's still a good football team. I just think Tyler High's a little above them right now. So, and with as close as Tyler High was at Rose Stadium last week, I just think Tyler High is going to pull it out this week. But it would be really close, I think, and high scoring.
All right, I'm gonna go with Legacy. I think again in the rivalry, it's who you think is going to win, never does. And so, I mean, we've talked about how Tyler High is turning it around, and we haven't really talked about Legacy much. And I think they're going to take that kind of the aspect of, hey, we're going to show them that we're also trying to turn our program around. And I was impressed too with that Thursday night game. Like, I really thought Texas High was going to just, run up and down the field on them. And the fact that they were in the game and ahead of the game at one point, is a lot. Now, again, Tyler High played well with Marshall. I mean, it was the same type deal, but I'm throwing up the records, and I could just flip a coin in this one. I don't really know, but I'm going to go with Legacy in this one to then get the W.
I think the reason we don't talk a lot about Legacy and how they've improved is because their district is ridiculous. They don't. I don't want to say they don't have a chance, but you don't see a path for them to get into the playoffs in that district. Like, there's just so many top teams where Tyler High's in a pretty tough district too, but it's more top heavy, I think, with a couple of good teams, whereas Legacy's district is just loaded from even Royce City. We just talked about it. Royce City could have been the worst team in the district, and they just beat Digsy's Plano East squad. So I think it's a toss-up, really, but I think that's why we don't talk about Legacy a lot, just because their path to the playoffs seems so much harder than Tyler High's path.
Yeah, it really does.
No, I agree. I think that's like I said, I'm a big fan of Coach Colvin at Royce City, and they were impressive, and I was shocked at the score there. And that was supposed to be right. Legacy and Roy City, fighting for that kind of end, who's going to be next to last thing. And man, that makes you nervous, right? And, and Forney and North Forney have been much better. And it's just tough. You got Rockwalls, they're never bad, right? Neither one, and again, Legacy got a surprise win over Heath, I believe, last year. And, but then Longview is Longview. And so, I mean, there's not like you said, there's not an easy win where Tyler seems to have a better shot at getting in that top 4. And so I think that's part of it too is, and again, you gotta win the games. And again, I'm impressed with both. And I think it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be that game where there's going to be something wild and crazy that happens at least once, right? And it's that fun thing where you just never know who's going to win it. So,
all right, let's go over some games on NetSN. Of course, we mentioned we'll start with Thursday. Beckville Joaquin again will be on NetSN. We mentioned that one in our pick'ems a minute ago. Huntington and Frankston again on NetSN. Frankston coming off a big win, and so is Huntington. KO, you're shaking your head there. What do you think about this one on Thursday?
I didn't know they were playing this week. That's interesting. Huntington at Frankston. Listen, I'm happy for Huntington getting off the schneid, but the way Frankston just performed against Joaquin, I think it may be a short-lived win streak there, a win streak of 1. But I do think it'll be interesting to see how Huntington performs against a really quality opponent like Frankston. Evadale is not it. Evadale is not. Not a knock on them, sorry, but they are not on Frankston's level. So be interesting to see what Huntington does.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think the other thing interesting is the next game we have. Alba Golden versus Mount Enterprise. I feel like that we've got Overton, Carlisle, Mount Enterprise, and Alba Golden playing in some kind of tournament. They're all going to play each other here. So if we wait to make your picks, you could wait till Mount Enterprise and Alba Golden play and see how Mount Enterprise plays them, and that might be a little better sign of how to judge the Carlisle Overton game. But that game will also be on NetSN. I believe Keith and Conrad are traveling down to Mount Enterprise for that one on Thursday night. The other game will be over in Tatum. We mentioned it a while ago, Dangerfield and Tatum live on NetSN. So that'll be our 4 Thursday games. Anybody got any thoughts about any of these games? Jaron, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the game that's probably going to be the most intriguing, if you will, is that Dangerfield Tatum game, just because of what we said earlier when we did our pick'em. As far as Mount Enterprise, Alba Golden, again, I think that's going to be it's going to go in favor of Mount Enterprise. Frankston, Huntington, same thing. I just think Frankston's a really good team, and so I think the one that's the most intriguing is that Dangerfield and Tatum game.
Jeremy?
I'm excited. I think you and I are on the call for the Frankston game, and I'm excited to see if it was like, and again, I don't think it is, and I'm not saying it is, but I think a lot of people may say, was that just a fluke, right? Did they beat Joaquin and it was week 1, right? Or is this Frankston team for real? And so I'm excited to see what they can do. And again, I don't think it's a fluke. I'm not saying it is. I just think that people on the outside that may not have watched that game and saw the score, may wonder what happens. I'm excited to see if they can continue that and get a win again, week 2.
All right. See, Friday, we've got, of course, the aforementioned Carlisle and Overton game. We've got Frisco Legacy Christian coming to town to face the Brook Hill Guard. We've got Big Sandy versus Como Picton, New Diana versus Gladewater, Spring Hill versus Center, and Kilgore versus White House. Man, some good matchups there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games on NetSN Friday night. What do y'all think about these? Jeremy, any of those stick out to you?
I mean, I think we're going to be New Diana Gladewater. I'm excited for that one. I think, Gladewater got a surprise win. New Diana took a loss. And so how does that work? And then I think the Kilgore White House one's going to be a crazy fun one as well. And so I think those two are going to be big. It's going to be a big game for Brook Hill with Frisco Legacy, and so I think, again, you might just want to have get your 5-screen setup going, because we're going to have some really good ones out there. So there's not really, I think I'd want to watch all of those. I don't know that there's one I would be like, I'm not worried about that one,
Jaron?
Yeah. So, also want to mention that when Frisco Legacy comes to town, It's the first home game for Brook Hill, so it's the Warrior Bowl. That's always just a lot of festivities there, just a lot of excitement around that game. That game always just has just some extra importance there for Brook Hill. And then I think that's going to be a really good, again, not test, but a really good litmus test as far as TAPS goes, as far as how Brook Hill is going to compete this year. And so I think that's going to be an exciting game. And Coach Hubbard and Coach Grubbs will have that game on NETSN. And again, they're going to also broadcast some of the festivities for the Warrior Bowl as well. And so I know that's going to be a fun one. Overton Carlisle, I'm again super excited about that game. Excited to be there to see that game and broadcast that game. But probably the one I'm most intrigued by is the one that you'll be at with New Diana and Gladewater. I think both teams, we've got some question on, Gladewater was that win against Dangerfield, like what's that about? Who are they now, right? And then with New Diana, was that loss just kind of a new coach kind of for a week one thing, or are they going to take it maybe a step back from what they did last year? So I just think there's a lot of intrigue around that game. And it is in Gladewater at Jack B. Murphy. So I think it's going to be a really intriguing game.
Okay, what do you think about those? Anything stick out to you?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I'm interested in that New Diana Gladewater one just because, like Jaron said, it was intriguing to me that Gladewater beat Dangerfield like they did, and that New Diana got beat by Mount Vernon like they did. So kind of two teams in opposite directions after week one. So I'm really interested to see how that game turns out. But also the Carlisle Overton one. Like I know we talked about it. I had a hard time picking that just because I was impressed with how Carlisle looked last week, but even in a loss. But then Overton also did their thing. So I'm interested to see these games and see how they pan out. The Warrior Bowl at Brook Hill is neat. I want to mention too, Longview and Lufkin last week were part of the the Marines Great American Rivalry Series or something like that. So they had a bunch of Marines out there and a bunch of Army personnel out at the game. So I think it was really well done how they did all that too, and had two Marines come out at the coin toss with the teams and shake hands. So really well done, which makes the Warrior Bowl coming up this week also a really cool thing as well.
All right, and then I guess in final, is there any games that we aren't going to have that you see out there or that you think of that's kind of to watch for? I know there's a lot of good ones out there this week, and we have quite a few of them. I'm just trying to go through and see if there's any games maybe to keep your eye on out there. Kyle, have you got your eye on any other ones out there that might be of interest?
I'm going through the scoreboard right now, just kind of looking at seeing what catches my eye. Grant Saline at Palmer should be a good one. Palmer has been ranked really high this year. Grant Saline, there's a lot of talk about them. Jefferson travels down to Newton. That should be a really good. That should be a really good one. Malakoff and Lorena, I'm interested in that because Lorena usually has a really good team, and Malakoff struggled against West Rust early on. So kind of interested to see how that one looks. Don't know if there's really any Timpson at Lovelady. Yeah. There's a sleeper one. Timpson at Lovelady should be a really good one. So there's a couple of games that I think will be good this week, but we really got them all covered. The big ones I think we really got all covered.
Jaron, you got anything?
Yeah, you've got Texas High playing Jason Witten and company with the Argyle Liberty Christian at Texas High. That's just, again, I don't know if it's going to be a matchup. That's a fun one just because of the folks that are involved with that one. And really, Lufkin Knack, just because it is the rivalry game. But Paris had a really good week one, and
they get rewarded in week two, Jaron.
Won a thriller, won a thriller against Sanger. Not that I think they're going to beat Pleasant Grove, but just see what happens there.
That's hey, Paris, you won week one. Your week two reward is you get Pleasant Grove.
Well, and St. Augustine's big win against Beckville. Same kind of deal. Now you're going to go against Westwood. Oof, and so you had a big win, a game that you didn't think you were going to win, and and you big win over Beckville.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
Hooks in Atlanta is an interesting one.
yeah.
Atlanta coming off, we see, they came off a tough week 1 opponent. And Hooks is a team that's, been consistently pretty solid there. So I'm interested to see kind of how Atlanta looks in that one. Jeremy, you got anything that sticks out to you?
Well, Jaron stole 2 of mine. I was going to say Paris and PG, and then the other one as well. And so I was like, well, what am I? Henderson, Liberty, Ilo, both teams coming off losses. I think that's going to be an interesting one, right? Which team is going to pick up the first win of the season? That was another one I saw. I mean, there's just so many. DeKalb and Pittsburgh. That might be a good one. There's a few out there.
We just don't know what was that against Liberty Alo, right? So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be an interesting one. I think those are and then Garrison ARP. I mean, we talked about that one earlier when we talked about polls, but I think that's going to be a good game as well.
All right. Final thoughts. Your thoughts about week 2 coming up. We'll start with you, Jaron.
Yeah, I thought we've talked about some really good matchups. Week 1, just like it was last year with the weather and stuff, was just weird. And you just with all the different delays and all the different, late starts and the conditions and all that, it's looking to be a more pretty week weather-wise. Last I checked, it was going to be really nice weather, high 80s, mid 80s, through Thursday and Friday. And I think we'll start kind of getting a better idea on some of these teams that we have questions on. Week 1's always week 1, right? It's just crazy things happen week 1. So week 2, you start to get a little bit more of a picture of what teams are. So excited for that.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, a great week 1, kind of a fun, interesting week 1. Again, you kind of, preseason polls, right? Preseason thoughts of that. And so I think this is kind of week 2 is where teams kind of get traction or get back on track. And so it'll be interesting to see what teams use the momentum from week 1 and move forward, and then what teams use week 1 as motivation that maybe took a loss that wasn't expected, and can they get back on track? And I think just as we keep going, we've got so many good games on our network, and I'm excited to be both places we're going to be. So it's going to be a fun week, and we're just getting started. It's crazy how many good games are already here, and we're just getting started.
Keo?
Yeah, I think I'm most looking forward to the teams that got some big wins in week 1, seeing how they follow up with that, seeing if, was it just a week 1 success story, or can that carry on down the road? And I think we'll learn a lot more about these teams in week 2 than we did in week 1. So that's what I'm most looking forward to, is just seeing how these teams that got some surprise wins, how they go forward in week 2.
And Jaron, just to let everyone know, if they're looking for our games, or they're looking to post scores, or looking at what's a place they can go that might not cost a whole lot, that they can go to find these things out?
Yeah, the NETSN app, it's free. And again, I want to say, if you're at a game, especially one that we're not at, please go on there, enter the score. Let us know. Usually we try to look around and enter scores that aren't entered yet, best what we can tell when we get scores, but it really helps us out as folks enter them. So please, if you haven't yet, download the NETSN app. It's free. As you're looking at scores, if you're at a game, enter that. That's a big help to us.
And Jeremy, just so if someone didn't hear Jaron, did he say that cost $20? How much did he say that was?
Actually, I think it was $20 less than $20. It was absolutely free.
Okay.
And again, you got the website, you got the app, right? You have YouTube. I mean, we've got so many options. You can tune in a variety of different ways. And it's free. And again, we're thankful for those sponsors that have come along to help us make that happen. And we're always looking for more, because that helps us broadcast more games and make it easier for those schools and the families that maybe live too far away to come to a game, or maybe it's too far out of town. You can get a chance to watch your team play when you're not there. And we do our best to make you feel like you're right there in the stands.
And if you miss all the games and you are looking for a way to find out what happened Friday night, KO, tell them what they can see later that night on Friday. Where can they go to find you?
Well, you can just download the Red Zone app, which you should already have it. But if you don't already, you can download the Red Zone app, and we have a live scoreboard every Friday night that is continuously getting updated. So you can check scores there too. Ones that maybe aren't on the NETSN app, maybe from around the way, you could check those. But yeah, you can tune in to KLTV every Friday night at 10:35 for the Red Zone, and then stick around online on the Red Zone app for Red Zone Overtime with yours truly from about 11:05 to, I think we went to about 11:35, 11:40 this past Friday night. So we talk about all the games from Friday. We look ahead to next week already. So yeah, make sure you check it out.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our first episode, our second episode of the season. This is week 2. Wow, week 1 went fast, guys. For Mr. NETSN Brett Swinney, Jaron Peoples, Jeremy Diamond, Mr. Red Zone OT, K.O. Collins, I'm Mr. NETSN Brett Swinney, signing off for this evening. Yeah. Good luck in your picks this week and your teams. Hopefully there's wins in your future. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We'll see you next time right here on bEast from the East, live on NETSN. Good night, everybody.
The Northeast Texas Sports Network is dedicated on delivering the most entertaining sports broadcasts in East Texas. And if you're interested in having your next sporting event streamed live, visit us online at NETSN.